Time being 5 p.m. on June 16th. I'll bring to order the regular meeting of the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board. I'll note that we are still meeting remotely to minimize the risk of exposure to or potential spread of COVID-19. Public meetings and hearings are authorized to be remote under Minnesota statute. Commissioners are calling into the meeting. It is viewable via live webcast and television options. Video of the meeting will also be posted on the website, usually 2 days after the meeting. I'll ask the secretary to please call the roll.
Commissioner Bourne. Commissioner Musich.
Present.
Commissioner Hassan. Commissioner Severson.
Present.
Commissioner Meyer.
Here.
Commissioner French. Commissioner Forney.
Here.
Vice President Vita.
Present.
President Cogill.
Here.
Commissioner Bourne.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Secretary Ringgold. I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
A motion to have a second.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask the secretary to please take the roll.
President Cogill, does that include bringing the potentially two items up from committee?
Yes, let it be noted that we'll be bringing up Admin Resolution 2021-233 and Recreation Resolution 2021-234 from committee to the full board for voting on this evening.
Commissioner Bourne.
Aye.
Commissioner Musich.
Did you hear me?
Commissioner Musich. Yes, I can now.
Okay. Aye.
Commissioner Hassan. Commissioner Severson.
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer.
Aye.
Commissioner French.
I would like to let the board secretary know that my camera is not working today. Aye.
Commissioner Forney.
Aye.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
President Cogill.
Aye.
You have 8 ayes and 1 absent.
That carries. I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes of Wednesday, June the 2nd, 2021.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approving the minutes from Wednesday, the 2nd of June. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, ask the secretary to please take the roll.
Commissioner Bourne.
Aye.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner Hassan. Commissioner Severson.
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer.
Aye.
Commissioner French.
Aye.
Commissioner Forney.
Aye.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
President Cogill.
Aye.
You have 8 ayes and 1 absent.
That carries. Our next item of business is a report from our superintendent, Superintendent Bangora. I'll turn it over to you here. Want to go ahead and tell us about all the wonderful things happening across the park system.
Thank you. Thank you, commissioners. And President Colgill, thank you. It's good to see everybody. Let's start with ice arenas. Youth summer camps at Parade started on Monday, June 14th. The new Zamboni is up and running at Parade. It has a life of its own and character, but there's the new Zamboni, so it's great to see it. Aquatics, Saturday, June 12th, was the kickoff to the season for our water parks, beaches, and Weber pool, our natural swimming pool. Attendance was strong opening weekend with the warm weather. Check the website for specific information about the season schedule and which beaches are guarded. Our programs continue to grow. Swim lessons, 583 registered participants. Open swim club, 982 registered participants. And sailing, 255 registered participants. And those are excellent numbers, and so it's great to see everybody start using our system. Adult athletics. Summer League started this month. Adult sports registrations are approaching or exceeding pre-pandemic numbers. Summer League registration has been strong. Golf continues to progress on projects at Columbia and Gross. And although the hot weather has slowed some casual play, the last weeks to 10 days, numbers have been consistent. Courses are beginning to feel the effects of the heat wave, and we are looking forward to a few days of some rain. And we hope we get some rain soon. Youth sports, track and field. Track season is halfway through the season. Youth have been dedicated to their sport, and last week ran in temps near 99 degrees. Staff did a great job of spacing the races out, as well as providing water to all the participants. The next meet is at the city qualifier this Thursday, June 17th at Roosevelt High School. Qualifiers from the meet will participate at the city finals scheduled for Thursday, June 24th. And I would welcome any commissioners all to come see what an amazing program that is. So hopefully we can see you there. Baseball. 18U RBI baseball kicked off the season this past Monday, June 14th. Finding umpires to cover games has been extremely challenging this year, and is a problem nationwide in parks and recreation. Thanks to Aaron Flanders, who jumped right in and umpired games at Hiawatha after the umpire did not show up. And that's Aaron right there behind the plate. It says it. Here's Aaron in action. If you know anyone who is interested in being an official, please apply at www.minneapolisparks.org. And thank you, Aaron, for just showing up. And I know they love you. I hear you were being harassed, but you did a great job. So great work. Recreation centers. Luxton Parks. Youth at Luxton Rec Center celebrate the completion of the mural with youth program specialists, Ishmael Saeed, and local artists. Loring Park is hosting a gardening and healthy eating program for adults every other Thursday at 9:00 a.m. This program will give participants the knowledge to learn how to plant, maintain, and harvest from the local community garden, as well as share and learn recipes and healthy eating. Fantastic. Stewart Park. Stewart Park has an adult badminton league or games every Thursday from 6 o'clock to 8:00 p.m. Lindell Farmstead. Play to Grow Preschool at Lindell Farmstead had its annual graduation end of the year celebration. The kids performed songs in both English and sign language. They're just absolutely adorable. That's incredible. Pearl. No pool, no problem. The preschool day camp participants are enjoying the warm weather and cool water in the kiddie pool or the kiddie car wash at Pearl Park while maintenance finishes up repairs for Pearl's waiting pool. Repairs are anticipated to be completed by around June 18th. So this is the creativity of these young people, and it's really great to see, and nothing slowed them down to having fun out in the park and having a water feature. So that is just wonderful. So wonderful, wonderful. Powderhorn Park presents the All Things Powderhorn podcast using the Creative Art Studio space. Kids can record this summer's theater session performance to share with a much broader network. It's much like families gathering around the radio decades ago to hear live theater. We've got a lineup of engaging topics that should be of interest to park users and the neighborhood alike. They will be recorded throughout the summer, courtesy of the Walt Dietzig Grant. Check us out on iTunes and look for our icon. The colorful part is the roof of the tea house on the far side of the pond. So great work on that. That's really exciting. East Phillips Park, kids beat the heat this past week by playing water hose limbo. Another great event to stay cool. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Park, Alina Health is helping more kids embrace the activity of biking by donating more than 240 bikes and bike helmets to the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board. The donated bikes will be used in Minneapolis Park and Recreation bike programs throughout the city. The bikes were collected by Alina Health and free bikes for kids at the annual bike collection event last October. Since then, the bikes have been cleaned, repaired, and are ready for riding by kids in need of bikes. And I'm extremely excited about this because it's one of the pillars I've been talking about, cycling in our parks. And I'm just so pleased by this and can't thank enough Alina Health, and really excited about this. So thank you. Rec Plus. Rec Plus has about 567 children enrolled this summer. Wherever Rec Plus has 37 children enrolled with an average of 25 to 29 attending daily on scholarships. Harrison Rec Plus has 10 enrolled with an average of 8 attending daily. There are still openings as many sites throughout the city. So please, if you are in need of daycare, we'd welcome you, and register anytime. So we're excited to have you. Creation spaces. We're so excited about the energy that is developing in the creation space at Powderhorn. A few months ago, we launched Powderhorn News. This program is designed to give young people a glimpse into news careers and video production. But more importantly, it developed self-confidence, leadership, and public speaking skills. Let's check out the work of Jaden, the journalist.
What's up, guys? It's your boy, Jaden the Journalist, and today I'm here with Mr. Bangora, and today we're going to be doing a Q&A about the Park and Rec and his kids.
All right, I'm Al Bangora. I'm the superintendent for the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board, and it's really great to be with you here, Jaden.
It's nice to have you.
Absolutely.
The first question is, what are you planning on to do with North Commons Water Park?
Oh, as far as it opening up this year, it's going to be, we're going to have it open, and people, in fact, we should be opening up here really soon. But the water park is going to be fully functional. It's going to be running. We have some areas that we still have to fix. It's an older water park, but it's going to be open and fully utilized this summer. As you know, we have a new park that's going to be hopefully coming soon as part of our bonding bill. But North Commons is going to transform into a whole new water park, a brand new 4 new gyms, a new field in there, so it's going to be pretty incredible.
That's great. Good to hear about what's happening at North Commons.
Absolutely.
So the second question is, what is the most exciting and interesting part of your job?
That's a tough question. I would say it's difficult, but I would say the best thing is being able to create things, being able to kind of open up avenues of opportunities for a young person like yourself sitting here today, right, in this space. That excites me, because the more that we can do in recreation and what we do to help improve your life and to give you opportunities to do these kind of things, learn about technology and athletics and art and all these kind of things, that's what excites me. This is all taxpayer based, so I work for you. So my goal is to make sure that you get what you need. And so that's what I love about this job.
For my third question that we want to know is, what is your commitment to you?
We have to hear what you need, right? We have to hear your voice. I think a lot of times we as adults, we sit in spaces and rooms and we hear things and we think we know what we're saying, what we want to provide for you, but we need to hear from you. So our commitment has to be truly you, right? It can't be, I think this is what I like, or as me as an adult, like I'm running a facility, and for me to say, I only like to do this because this is what I know. I can't do that, right? I have to know what you want and what you want to see happen and what you want to see part of your experience and the things that you do. So my commitment, or our commitment, is to hear your voice, to make sure that we're bringing the best opportunities and programs for you. And that's the commitment. But my job is to make sure my commitment is to work with the city council, work with our state legislators, work with our Hennepin County commissioners, work with all of the elected officials to make sure that they support the youth. And remember, we work for you. So the community is the boss, right? Then you hire the commissioners, or you elect the commissioners. And then I'm the superintendent who is appointed by the board. But the board is the people. And so the people, you own this park system. This is your park system. And your voice is powerful. And our young voices are really powerful. So we need to hear more from you.
The last question is a fun question. And I would like to know Pepsi or Coke.
Coke.
Coke?
That was easy. Coke, yeah. Yeah, there's something about Coke. You like Pepsi?
Yeah.
Oh, man. No, it's good. I don't drink a lot of Coke, but that's a good question. And I think Coke. But I don't care. I'll drink Pepsi. If I go to, I think it's Taco Bell only does, I think, Pepsi.
Okay.
So, you have to get the Pepsi there. So I drink the Pepsi. I'm like, that's not bad. But I like Coke.
There you have it, folks. You tuned in today with Jaden the journalist and Mr. Bangura. We're happy to have you today. And that's it for Jaden the journalist. Peace.
Well, thank you for that. That was a really great day for me to be there with that young man. And we have such wonderful kids in our parks that are doing some really amazing things. And so it was an honor to be sitting with him. And I really enjoyed it. And it's part of the job that really excites me, and to see these young people growing. So really proud of not only Jaden, but also proud of what's happening down at Powderhorn Creation Space. It was a great opportunity. And it was great to be with him. So with that, we'll keep moving on. Juneteenth, customer service community events in collaboration with the Juneteenth Community Board are excited to offer a series of Juneteenth activities throughout this week. Activities include story strolls provided by Hennepin County Libraries at Theodorworth Park, the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., King Park, and North Commons Park. The drive-in movie 42 was a success last night in the headquarters parking lot. A virtual panel discussion entitled Bridging the Gap will be broadcast in collaboration with the Insight News. A slate of family activities presented in collaboration with the Shingle Creek Neighborhood Association are scheduled for Friday evening at Creekview Park from 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock p.m., followed by an outdoor showing of the movie The Great Debaters. The week will conclude on Saturday, June 19th, with 3 featured activities: a second virtual panel discussion, Where Do We Go From Here? Again, in collaboration with Insight News. Music in the Park from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock p.m. at Bethune Park, featuring DJ Dime, Javante Patton, and the Royal Family Music Group, and outdoor showing of the movie Jumanji. The next level, however, Park at dusk. So very excited about that. I'll be attending those along with Deputy Superintendent Ringgold, and we'll be showing up and having a great time. And we encourage everyone to attend. I look forward to seeing, of course, any commissioner that can be there. We'd like to see you. So I look forward to the wonderful events during Juneteenth celebration. Forestry. The MPRB Forestry Department partnered with the Bassett Creek Volunteer to plant trees in the woodland area of Bassett Creek Park. Over 60 volunteers spent the Saturday morning planting 180 new trees. The trees are planted in plastic tubes which function as miniature greenhouses. The tubes improve survival by stopping damage from wildlife and preventing competition from surrounding vegetation. It's fantastic. Environmental management and natural resources, and the Conservation Corps program update. Conservation Corps of Minnesota and Iowa's Youth Outdoors, the CCMI YO or YO, started their 2021 work with Environmental Management's Natural Resources Work Group in early April this year. We began the spring season with one crew of 3 young adults. These adults crews worked with youth as ages 15 to 18 on conservation-based education and service projects during the spring school year or school term. This spring, due to COVID-19 safety protocols, the youth met at this job site instead of using the CCMI YO transportation or transport vans. Most of the youth in the CCMI YO program are from the north side, and Worth Park was the best location for them to perform the natural resources work. Great to see them. Congratulations. Early June, the second CCMI crew joined us, and we now have 2 young adult crews totaling 8 people working in the parks. These 2 crews will work from June through the end of August in managed natural areas throughout the park system. Most of their work will involve buckthorn and invasive species removal, and they will assist with volunteer projects. We're hoping for a typical fall youth term starting after Labor Day, where youth crews will be able to be transported to different parks to diversify their work and learning experiences. Really fantastic, so thank you. Asset management, operations. NPRB's aquatic plant harvesting program started for the season on Monday, May 24th. Since May through the week of June 4th, the maintenance teams have harvested 6 loads of aquatic plant material from Lake of the Isles, 20 truckloads from Lake Harriet and Cedar Lake, equaling approximately 75,000 pounds of plants. The process involves using 2 mechanical harvesting machines. Staff will remove plant material from Cedar Lake, Lake of the Isles, Minneapolis, and Lake Harriet during the summer months. Due to their relatively isolated areas of nuanced plant growth, Worth Lake and Lake Nokomis are harvested by contractors using scuba diving. Staff are taking precautions to ensure that harvesting equipment does not transport zebra mussel or other aquatic invasive species from lake to lake. Equipment Services recently received a new truck for the NPRB gardening division. Andrew Gawboy, an NPRB gardening crew leader, was assigned to this new vehicle. On an additional note, this may be one of the last trucks that the NPRB will be able to receive for the near future, due to notification received that many vehicle manufacturers are facing a shortage of computer chips. This means a large delay of ordering and receiving new vehicles. Currently, NPRB has 18 vehicles that need replacing for 2021. For most of the year, NPRB has not been able to place truck orders due to the lack of a current state contract. This recent holdup of computer chips may push the procurement of new vehicles out even further. Equipment Services will work to keep the existing equipment operational. However, we may see a rise in the maintenance cost budget keeping up these older vehicles operational. And that's been a nationwide problem. And so we are just facing, like many organizations are, as far as ordering some vehicles, but we'll keep you informed as we make progress. EV charging stations. The work started earlier this year on an EV charging station that can charge 6 electric vehicles at one time, has been completed at NPRB's Southside Operations Center. Really excited to see that. It was a pleasure being down there with the team at this at this station. So very happy to see that happening. So, and we'll continue to keep building upon that. IPM work. The horticulture team continues to explore non-chemical management approaching when tackling insect, weed, and disease issues. In 2020, the horticulture team found that the alpine currant hedges had a mildew issue. An organic fungicide was used to try to control the fungus with limited results. For 2021, the team decided to take a different approach. The shrubs were cut back to a new growth. This helps remove infested plant materials, limited exposure to the next or to the new growth. Long-term, staff will explore plant replacement if the fungal issue continues to present. So great work on that. Thank you. Volunteers. The horticulture team hosted 10 volunteer events in May, including the volunteer open house. This year, gardeners John Rabe, Jacob Deaver, and Andrew Gabo supported the event. Andrew provided volunteer tours at the gardens at Lindo Farmstead, while John and Jacob helped greet volunteers while handing out snacks and giveaways. A big thank you to the Environmental Stewardship Volunteer Coordinator, Sherry Brooks, for putting this event together and continuing to recruit and retain high-quality garden volunteers. Wonderful. Let's see, what do we have next? I believe Curry Park improvement is next. Yes, thank you. Early last week, NPRB hosted a ribbon cutting ceremony for the new improvements at Curry Park. in the Cedar Riverside neighborhood. In attendance with me were President Cogill, Hennepin County Commissioner Connolly, City Councilmember Osman. The ceremony celebrated the completion of the 2.5-year project, or 2.5-year project, which was built using $3.3 million in MPP 20 funds, the single largest MPP 20 contribution to a neighborhood park to date. Improvements included a new splash pad, a new restroom building, a new full court basketball court, along with a trail, lighting and playground improvements. Later this fall, a mosaic mural will be installed on the restroom building through the city's Arts in Public Places program. So excited to see it. It was a wonderful day being out there, with President Cogill and Commissioner Connolly, and of course, Councilmember Osman, and all the residents and community who were there to support and really enjoy this incredible feature. So thank you for that, and it was a great day. Kennedy Park Playground, and of course, I want to thank Dan Elias, who's been doing a great job around that. Thank you, Dan, and moving that project. Kennedy Park Playground Improvement Project. And individuals are welcome to review the draft concept plan for playground improvements at Kennedy Park and submit their comments at a public hearing on Wednesday, July 7th at 6:00 p.m. The hearing takes place during a regularly scheduled meeting at the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board. Of course, you can visit the project page to submit your comments. And if you go to Minneapolis Park and Recreation page, /park care and improvements, /current projects to find this project. We look forward to your comments. And I think with that, I'm going to turn this over real quickly to Director Weissman for a financial update and coronavirus pandemic COVID-19 update.
Good evening, President Cogill and commissioners. I will try to get through this in 4 minutes. Next slide, please. For our general fund, our budget status through May 31st, we are still projecting that we are going to end the year utilizing some of our fund balance, and that is due to the resolutions that the board adopted to use excess general fund balance. We can see that in June, we will be able to report out on the first half of property taxes. That will give us a good sense of where we're sitting on the property tax side. And you can see that fees, fines, and other revenues are reporting at a higher level than they were at this time last year. Last year, we lost about $5 million. This year, we are projecting a loss of $3 million. So we do expect this to increase throughout the year, and we will be monitoring it further. And then you'll see on the expenditure side that we are below our budget. We're at 35% collected, our expense. Next slide, please. So we have available fund balance, audited fund balance of just under 9.4 million, of which almost 4.5 million is our requirement to retain per our financial management policy. We have prior year excess fund balance allocations, and then we have the new allocation that was adopted by this board in 2021, and that leaves a remaining available excess general fund balance of 1.7 million. Next slide, please. In the enterprise fund area for golf, we still show through May 31st an increase in our rounds of golf as well as an increase in revenue. I will point out that Columbia Golf Course now is reflecting a decrease in rounds between this time last year and this time this year, and that is due to the construction that is taking place at Columbia. But overall, our rounds of golf are still up by over 23,000 rounds in total. We will see at the end of June how the impact of the heat has, we do know it's impacted some afternoon play, and we will see how that impacts our total rounds when we report out next month. Next slide, please. So for use events, concessions, and parking, again, parking is rebounding nicely. Everything else, it's a little bit too early to tell, so we'll keep a watch on that. And the next slide, please. For ice arenas, that is rebounding quite nicely. So I like to see the revenue has increased and the expenditures are decreasing. Next slide, please. And so overall in the enterprise fund, we do expect to use some reserve balance. And again, that is because of the Bay Mecosta concession building, as construction will begin, and we will utilize fund reserves that we received from property insurance for that in 2021. And that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Director Wiseman. Thank you, Superintendent. Superintendent, were there any other items you wanted to cover?
President Cogill, we are done.
Very good. Are there questions from commissioners regarding any of the presentations? Commissioner Severson.
I don't have a question, Commissioner, or excuse me, President Cogill, but I heard that we have a badminton program going at Stewart Park, and I'm extremely happy to hear that as we try to increase non-traditional sports in our communities. Badminton, I'm not sure if people know this, in the Twin Cities is kind of a big thing for our girls. The Twin Cities makes up probably most of the teams in Minnesota as far as high schools going. They compete in the Minnesota State High School League. So kudos to whoever the director is there. I hope we can get more kids involved and engaged. I truly believe it might perhaps be the most diverse showing in any of our sports as well. So kudos to whoever the director at Stewart is, and great job.
Thank you, Commissioner Severson. That's super cool to hear. Any other questions from commissioners?
Point of order is 5:30.
Thank you, Commissioner Musich, for that reminder. The time being just after 5:30 p.m. It is our time for open time. This is our opportunity to hear from the public, and I will allocate 2 minutes for each speaker this evening. Let me pull up the list. I believe we have a set of speakers. I think there's 7 of them. Bear with me a moment. Yes, we have 7 speakers this evening. Again, I'll allocate 2 minutes per speaker. And I'll remind speakers, once you're unmuted, you may go ahead, state your name, and if you're comfortable, your address for the record, and you can speak on any topic. We just ask that you refrain from speaking on any pending personnel matters, as well as ensuring that you don't use any discriminatory or harassing language. With that, I'll ask our staff here if we have our first speaker on the line. That's Pat Sulak. Is Pat on the line?
No, Pat is not on the line.
Okay. I'll go to our next speaker on the list here. That's Mario Vargas. Is Mario on the line?
No, Mario is not on the line.
All right. I'll keep heading down the list. Rich Warian.
Yes, I'm letting them in the room right now.
Hello. Very good. We have Rich on the line. Rich, you have 2 minutes to address the board. Go ahead.
2 minutes. Okay. It said 3. I'm calling on behalf of the small business owners of the Sheridan neighborhood who have been negatively impacted, as well as the residents and the children who are having issues with safety regarding the homeless encampment that is partially on park land at 13th and Water Street. The existence of the encampment is in direct violation of your own vision statement, theme number 4. It is not a safe place to play, celebrate, contemplate, or recreate. It is not a positive recreation experience that prevents crime. They're using alcohol and tobacco on your property. There's continuous presence of drug paraphernalia, used condoms, prostitution, drug dealing, and other unsafe practices. You guys put all that time and effort into building that beautiful playground and basketball court and biking trails, and people are not feeling safe to use that. The owner of Bunny's Bar and Grill has had a huge drop in business, and I spoke with Commissioner Meyer about this, and he said that he had no intention of intervening with any of this stuff. And under Vision Team 4, intervention and communication reduces safety concerns. Well, he's in violation of that sentence right there. And he even said that if they put in for a permit to have a legal encampment there, he would vote to approve it. And in doing so is voting to approve diminished public safety, children being exposed to drug dealers and prostitution and predators, people vomiting on your parkland using condoms and disposing of them within 50 feet of where children are playing. That's what Chris is actually saying he would vote for. And if all of you are behind promoting this activity on your parkland, that is a very serious concern to public safety. Communities, public and private partners and staff cooperate to promote safety. So you need to either remove that entire section from your website or remove the encampment. Otherwise, I will definitely be mobilizing the community on a much greater level and consuming your resources until you do.
Thank you for your comments, Rich. We can direct you to our Community Connections and Violence Prevention team, who can follow up on our work at Parkland. I do believe the encampment space that you were referring to is not on Parkland, but I'll direct you to our Community Connections and Violence Prevention team to follow up. Our next speaker, they will contact you, Rich. Our next speaker is pull it up here. David Crary. Do we have David online?
Yes.
Very good. David, you can hear me. You have 2 minutes to address the board. You can go ahead.
Thank you. I can address the board now?
Yes, you have 2 minutes.
Okay. Commissioners, I want to say thank you for your time and for your service of stewardship of the Minneapolis Park District. I'm David Crary. I'm the Vice President of the North Loop Neighborhood Association, and I'm a head of its Parks Committee for the North Loop. I believe Commissioners Cowgill and Stevenson received a letter from the President of the North Loop today from Diane Merrifield in support of this, what I'm going to speak on today also. I'm here to ask each of you to support the authorization of approximately $176,000 from the general fund budget for capital outlays for the acquisition of the new 3rd Street Park in the North Loop. In 1980, about 370 people lived in the North Loop. The 2020 census, we estimate, are going to show over 10,000 to 12,000 people living in the North Loop. It's a pretty fast-growing neighborhood. Because of that growth, over 90% of the cost of this new park is coming from our park dedication fee. Less than about a small single-digit percentage needs to come from the capital outlay fund. It is my understanding that timing is very important for the purchase of this park, and that we need the authorization of this money tonight to make this park possible. The North Loop has always been mostly concrete and buildings, and its park space is very much needed. It's also expensive, but it's also very precious. This new park will provide some much needed green space for the North Loop, and it will also go a long way in meeting the goal of the city that everybody live within a 10-minute walk of a park, which is currently not the case in the North Loop. So I ask you, each of you, for your support tonight and to vote yes for the general funding for the new park for the North Loop on 3rd Street. Thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Query, for your comments. Greatly appreciated. Our next speaker is Jim Van Warden. Is Jim on the line?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Jim, if you can hear me, you have 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes to address the board. You can go ahead now.
So my name is Jim Van Warden. My wife and I bought our house at 99-year-old 2833 East Lake of the Eye.
Go ahead, Jim. Sounds as though we may have lost Jim here. Is the speaker still on the line?
Looks like we lost the speaker.
Okay. Well, we will come back to Jim. Hopefully he comes back on here in a moment. And I will now go to our next our final sign up, Diane Grieve. Is Diane on the line?
Yes.
Yes, I'm here.
Very good. Hello, Diane. You have 2 minutes to address the board. You can go ahead now.
Thank you. I am Diane Grieve, and I live at 4300 West River Parkway. And I am the board president for the Danish American Center at 3030 West River Parkway. I'm pleased to see Resolution 2020-167 on the agenda again tonight. After being recommended by the Planning Committee, this was tabled by the board over a year ago, and our organization has waited for clarity. Our request is for a 15 square foot encroachment permit to keep a sign in front of our building on the parkway. I see no ordinance that suggests we cannot have a sign on the park board land that informs the public what is in our building. Moving it up and onto our property makes it much harder for people going by to see it. I ask you to vote to remove it from the table and vote this up or down. Of course, we want permission to have it remain where it was for at least 30 years before it was stolen 2 years ago. We have been partners with the city and the park board for nearly 100 years, and we ask you to consider this request on an individual basis in keeping with Ordinance 13.6.7.a that states requests will be taken under consideration by the board on an individual basis. If you must vote no, I hope you can give clarity as to why you have reached that decision, as other organizations along the parkway have signs identifying their organization. I will listen to your discussion tonight, and I am available for questions if I can be more assistant. Again, thank you for this, and I'm glad you're going to look at it again. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. I'm going to go back through the speakers again. I'll start at the top here. Is Pat Sulak on the line?
Nope, sir.
Is Mario Vargas on the line?
Yes.
Oh, very good. Let's hear from Mario. Hello, Mario. Can you hear me?
Yeah, this is he.
All right, very good.
Hi.
Mario, you're on the meeting, and you have 2 minutes to address the board. You can go ahead now.
Thank you. My name is Mario Vargas, and I'm with the Wyndham Community Council. I'm the administrator. Thank you all for giving us the opportunity to speak this evening, late this afternoon. I'll be brief, President. The purpose of the call and the purpose of me addressing the council leadership, the board leadership today is more than anything a plea on behalf of the Wyndham Community Council Board for the reopening of the Wyndham South Park facility. We, as as you may be aware, the Wyndham Community Council has sent a letter to each of you making the formal request. So I won't rehash too much within the letter, other than to say that we have a very busy Wyndham Community South Park prior to the pandemic, the COVID pandemic. It was well visited, mostly by residents and the children of residents in the apartment complexes and surrounding homes. We have dozens of families that have been affected, and potentially several hundred residents in the immediate area that have been affected. And so the plea on behalf of the board is for this council to consider, including our District 6 representative, to reconsider in keeping the park closed. The summer is a very important time. In fact, we have seen our youth, particularly our ethnic youth from the apartments who utilize the park on a daily basis, come knocking on doors, asking staff, running around in the neighborhood without much to do. A lot of them, this is a safe haven. And so it is critical for this Board of Commissioners to consider this and to reopen the park. So that's the purpose of my call and the purpose of our plea. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vargas. Moving back to Mr. Van Iwarden, is Jim back on the line?
Yes, I am.
Oh, very good, Jim. I'll let you start over here. You have 2 minutes to address the board. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Jim Van Iwarden. My wife Ellen and I bought our 99-year-old house at 2833 East Lake of the Isles Parkway in 2017, and we've been working on a number of maintenance items since then. One of those is to replace the crumbling stairs and porch, which requires an encroachment permit for the bottom few steps next to the sidewalk. We want to thank park staff for their help and the planning committee for recommending approval for this evening's board meeting. One of the maintenance items we've been working on is water management. It's not directly related to our application, but it is of interest as our property borders on the parks. When we bought the house, and for many years before, runoff from the roof and yard was being discharged directly onto the public sidewalk. This created icing problems every winter. Meltwater froze on the public sidewalk and created dangerous conditions for everyone walking by. Last year, we redirected the runoff to a dry well on our property, and it solved the icing problem last winter. We will continue to work with Park Board staff to monitor the system. We want to thank the board for considering our application this evening. That ends my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank
This
you.
does conclude our speakers this evening.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm not seeing any others, so thank you to our speaker. Return to the regular meeting of the board. Yes, I'll return to the regular meeting of the board. I'm not seeing any other hands raised regarding the superintendent's report. Just check one more time here. Not seeing any other hands raised. Thank you, Superintendent. Thank you, Director Wiseman. And we'll move on with our agenda. Our next item of business is consent. We have one item. I'll ask for a motion on Resolution 2021-229. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second on Resolution 2021-229. Is there any questions or discussion on the consent item?
President Kogel, I'm having some technical difficulties and can't see my screen. Can somebody just read the text of the resolution?
Commissioner Bourne, the resolution 2021-229 is a resolution awarding a construction contract to Sunram Construction Incorporated in the amount of $387,638 for the St. Anthony Parkway Trail improvements for bid event ID 1499 and pending approval of City Minneapolis Purchasing Division, Department of Civil Rights, and authorizing administrative use of a 10% construction contingency up to $38,764.
Thank you.
I'm not seeing any hands raised. I'll ask the secretary to please take the roll.
President Cogill, can you hear me?
Yes, Secretary, I can.
All right, thank you. We're having a little technical difficulty here, so so bear with me. Commissioner Bourne.
Aye.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner Severson.
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer.
Aye.
Commissioner Hassan. Commissioner French.
Aye.
Commissioner Forney.
Aye.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
President Cogill.
Aye.
You have 8 ayes, 1 absent.
That carries. Moving into reports of standing committees, Chair Meyer.
I'm going to request that someone else make this motion, please.
I'll move resolution 2021-222, a resolution approving encroachment permit for use of 3,724 square feet of land in front of subject property at 2025 East River Parkway, encroaching upon parkland at East River Parkway within Mississippi Gorge Regional Park and collecting appropriate fees associated with this encroachment.
The resolution has been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Resolution has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Meyer.
Yeah, I just want to say that, I've been accused of supporting a sweetheart deal with this. It's a baseless accusation, but I have been accused of it. So I'll be abstaining on this vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Meyer. Are there any other questions or comments from commissioners? Commissioner Bourne.
Thank you, President Cogill. Can we just get a little bit of background on the, so I think I might be mixing this up with a previous resolution that everybody voted on, allowing parking in the first district for the U of M. So this is for Assistant Superintendent Schroeder. There's the Fraser Hall and Shriners Hospital. Again, I don't have my screen in front of me, but this is we've already voted on Fraser Hall. Is that right, or is this Fraser Hall?
President Cogill, Commissioner Bourne, the Fraser Hall was a letter of agreement, and that was addressed by the board a couple of meetings ago. This is for the former Shriners Hospital, which is now going to be the Masonic Institute for the Developing Brain, where there was an encroachment for parking and service access to Fraser Hall. This is for 2 existing driveways that existed on the property since the hospital was first constructed.
So thank you. So this isn't Fraser Hall where the board, I think the board voted to approve preservation of parking through an MOU to approve encroachments coming forward. So this is the Shriner Hospital. So this is not is this a hospital where young people will be receiving treatment, or is this a research institute? Can we talk a little bit more about this?
President Cogill and Commissioner Bourne, one of the things that might help with this is that Leslie Krieger, the Assistant Vice President for Planning, Space, and Real Estate for the University of Minnesota, is attending this meeting tonight, and she could probably best speak to the facility and what it's intended to do.
Yes, let's have
That
her
would be
do
great.
that.
Thank you, Commissioners, President Kogel and Commissioners. I am Leslie Krieger. I'm Assistant Vice President for Planning, Space, and Real Estate at the University of Minnesota. I appreciate the time this evening and the consideration of our request for an encroachment permit. The Masonic Institute for the Developing Brain is a proposed use that the university has been working on for a number of years. And we acquired the Shriners property in January of 2020 for this purpose. And this is a unique opportunity for us to implement a groundbreaking vision for developmental brain health. And what I mean by that is what we have the opportunity to do in this facility is bring together experts from behavioral pediatrics, child neurology, child psychiatry, child psychology, as well as and those are all within our medical school, along with our College of Education and Human Development, who specializes in educational policy and direct services to families and children with brain health issues. So we're talking about children with developmental disabilities, depression, autism, epilepsy, ADHD, strokes, anything that deals with the brain, and particularly at two key points in a child's development. One is in the first 3 years of a child's development, as well as during adolescence, where the brain is developing and changing rapidly. And so by bringing these clinicians and these practitioners and these researchers all together under one roof, we have an opportunity unique in the United States and even the world to really think about all of the issues that face children and families with brain health issues. And so I think we're respecting the original mission of the Shriners for serving children at this property, but then taking it to the next level and really thinking about how does this support the children and families of Minnesota in terms of really advancing the research as well as the treatment for children with brain health issues on the site. And so the encroachment permit, as Assistant Superintendent Schroeder mentioned, is for pre-existing driveways that have been in operation since the Park Board approved the original resolution in 1924 for the hospital at the time, and then were reinforced in the 1980s as part of the quitclaim deed between the Park Board and Shriners Hospital at the time as well, and when they reconstructed the hospital on the site. And so there are existing conditions, and we're proposing to repair those. There's a new sidewalk that we're proposing. We're proposing to replace some of the panels along the parkway, as well as deal with some of the disability access ramps for the sidewalks as well. There's also existing signage that we're proposing to replace, as well as lighting. And so that's the 3,724 square feet that we're requesting as part of this encroachment permit.
Thank you, Leslie, very much.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner
President
Bourne.
Kogel, still have the floor. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. As somebody that doesn't work in the healthcare field, I'm still trying to understand this a little bit better. Is this a facility where patients will go to and maybe using that driveway to be dropped off? Or is this a research facility?
President Kogel, Commissioner Bourne, it is both. And so we will be seeing patients at the facility. So the driveways, there's an entrance driveway and an exit driveway that then proceed into a drop-off, that is a U-shaped drop-off area circle that is on the university property, as well as a parking ramp that is on the university property. And so there are patients that will be seen, some of those patients and families, in addition to developmental disabilities, also face physical disabilities, as well as researchers that will be co-working with other researchers across different fields to advance the advance the research that goes along with that. So it is both a clinical facility and a research facility. As you know,
Okay.
as we're with COVID, we've seen a dramatic change in terms of how mental health services are provided. There's a lot of telehealth that will be provided as part of this. So some patients will not actually be seen at the facility, but will actually be serviced through telehealth as well. So it's an opportunity for service throughout, for the Twin Cities as well as the state of Minnesota. And I am not a medical provider, so I'll do my best to explain some of the.
No, that's really helpful. So for somebody like me that doesn't know a lot about this, this is reasonable to assume that a patient that is in great need, that may have some mobility issues, may be being transported to the facility and could get just a little bit closer to the entrance doors to see their healthcare provider if we approved this encroachment. That's fair to assume?
President Cogill, Commissioner Bourne, that is correct. So we have patients, for example, for the child psychiatry clinic that currently are seen on the West Bank. And if anybody has visited any of the facilities, medical facilities on the West Bank campus, you know that it's kind of difficult to maneuver and figure out where you're going and what entrances and where to park and all of this. For these families that have children who are facing severe developmental disabilities, brain health, epilepsy, as well as physical disabilities, this environment is such a welcoming environment. And this is one of the reasons why we were so excited when this site came on the market, because it really does provide just a much better environment for families and who are facing some significant challenges, either, and many of those physical as well as mental health issues that will be able to get that service in a much more peaceful and conducive environment for these people.
Well, that's certainly admirable work. And if we can help some kids get a little bit closer to their service providers when they're going through some trauma, I'm happy to help with that. I think just based on the U of M and Park Board relationship, I know some commissioners, myself included, had some reservations when this came up. It was brought forward through committee with a request that it be approved the same evening. I'm sitting here learning about the project tonight. So we normally have a process where something goes through committee and then it goes through the full board. And when I read the background packet, the only reason that was given for having it kind of skip our process was that the Board of Regents, I think that this is pretty near a direct quote, the Board of Regents wanted to begin construction immediately. We're great partners and we want to preserve that, but that's not a compelling reason to circumvent public process for folks that may have had questions. There's other folks that probably know as little about this as I do, and so thank you for helping educate the public tonight. I do know, it's really disappointing that I know Fraser Hall, we just approved a letter of understanding to preserve some parking there, and I think it was unanimously approved, and I don't think it was for As Virtuous, and I don't think it was to help kids get the mental health treatment that they needed. So I'll be supporting this. I think it's pretty gross that anybody would abstain on it after helping Fraser Hall get some parking and driveways. So I'll be supporting this evening, and I hope my rest of the colleagues will do the same.
Thank you, Commissioner Bourne. Commissioner Meyer for the second time.
I'd like to hear from Ms. Kruger if she had something to say to that.
Oh, please go ahead. Leslie, you can go ahead.
President Cogill, Commissioner Bourne, I did want to just clarify one thing with the Fraser Hall request, that was a letter of agreement. That was just to allow us to, for our building code official to begin the process of issuing permits if the state legislature provides bond funding as part of the legislative session, which is pretty unlikely at this point, but we will be coming back to you for a request for an easement for that. And the parking, we're actually going to be reducing the parking lot that's currently located there and providing, it's more for service as well as for disabled accessibility for the area. But we do agree that there are a lot of opportunity areas for the university and the park board to be working together. And one of the components of that letter of agreement was to be working on some land swap issues over the next few years. And that's something that we're really committed to in terms of jointly exploring those opportunities for where, we have a lot of land between the university and the park board that abuts each other. And we really look forward to working with park board staff as we explore some of those opportunities for mutual benefit. So.
President Colville for the second time, if nobody else is.
You're gonna have to wait, Commissioner Bourne. Commissioner.
Oh, that's
Meyer,
fine. I just want to go.
You're in the queue. Commissioner Meyer. Thank you, Ms. Kruger. Commissioner Meyer, go ahead.
Thank you. She clarified some of the things that I wanted to say about Fraser Hall, which was a significant reduction in the amount of parking. My understanding was that it was 10 or 11, if you count like the loading area of parking spots that are there now. And the agreement that we have brings it down to approximately 2, which is basically their loading area. They have, like by rights, they have to have access at some place. So like that was a significant reduction in overall parking, seems to fit with my standards. Commissioner Bourne, if you have an alternative suggestion, first of all, I wonder why you didn't mention it to anybody. No one brought up any dissent during committee or the full board, but it is just a letter of agreement. We could, first of all, choose to revoke the agreement if you'd like to bring that onto the agenda, or when it comes forward to the actual proposal, then we could reject it at that time. So I'm open to hearing whatever you might have to say. But for this one on the agenda tonight, I just can't win, can I? You're saying that it's gross for me to abstain after you accused me of having a sweetheart deal for it? I can't win. I don't know what do you want me to do? And I just want to know for everyone else, I mean, you're bringing up the relationship between us and the University of Minnesota. I mean, I'm just reflecting on the time that you put a moratorium on all contracts with the University of Minnesota because the chair of the Board of Regents wouldn't meet with you. Just completely petty and nothing that I know of it was accomplished from that. I had people calling me asking.
Commissioner Meyer, if you could stay on topic.
Okay.
Thank you. If that concludes your comments on the topic of the resolution before us, I'll go to Commissioner Bourne for the second time.
Thank you, President Cogill. I'll be brief and try to stay on topic. I certainly understand the preservation of about 20% of the parking spaces at Fraser Hall, and that there's a carbon footprint that's associated with that, and it's a little bit against our environmental policies. But again, like going back to like that was the process that I personally like to see. As a partner, you came forward and said, hey, we want to do this. We're going to be asking you for it. And here's a letter of agreement. I would also add, I certainly hope that anybody that would approve a letter of agreement in good faith wouldn't turn around and then change their mind on it. Like I think that would be leaving our partners at the U of M kind of holding the bag after they are moving forward in good faith, drawing up plans, trying to get support from the legislature. That's exactly why the park board gets in trouble, is kind of this amateurish politics and kind of inconsistent.
Commissioner Bourne, could you stay on the topic of the resolution?
No, I will. So for this one, I would encourage all my, if we're going to vote to preserve parking for loading docks, I would encourage all of my colleagues to vote to preserve a driveway for patients to get into a health facility. And it's just, yeah, I mean, I do stand by the fact that I think it would be a little bit gross that anybody would abstain. I appreciate our Board of Regents going through this process with us and just making sure that the public is informed. So I would encourage all of my colleagues to support this resolution.
Thank you, Commissioner Bourne. Seeing if there are any other hands raised for discussion. Thank you, Vice President Krieger, for giving us an overview of what is before us this evening. We appreciate the partnership and appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you.
Not seeing any other hands raised, I'll ask the Secretary to take the roll.
Commissioner Bourne.
Aye, and thank you for your work.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner Severson.
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer.
Abstain.
Commissioner Hassan. Commissioner French.
Aye.
Commissioner Forney.
Aye.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
President Kogel.
Aye.
You have 7 ayes, 1 abstain, and 1 absent.
That carries. Chair Meyer.
On behalf of Planning Committee, I move Resolution 2021-223, a resolution approving encroaching permit for use of 26 square feet of land in front of the subject property at 2833 East Lakely Isles Parkway, encroaching upon parkland at Lakely Isles Parkway within the Minneapolis Channel Lakes Regional Park, and the collection of appropriate fees associated with this encroachment.
Resolution has been moved.
Second.
Is there a second? The resolution has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on Resolution 2021-223? Any discussion? Any discussion? I'm not seeing any. I'll ask the Secretary to take the roll.
Commissioner Bourne.
Pass.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner Severson.
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer.
Aye.
Commissioner Hassan. Commissioner French.
Aye.
Commissioner Forney.
Aye.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
Commissioner Bourne.
Aye.
President Kogel.
Aye.
You have 8 ayes, 1 absent.
That carries. Moving on in our agenda, I will turn it over to our chair of the Legislative and Intergovernmental Committee, Patricia Vita.
On behalf of the Legislative and Intergovernmental Committee, I'd like to move Resolution 2021-228, a resolution amending the 2021 federal legislative agenda of the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board.
Resolution has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the resolution? Any discussion from commissioners? Any discussion? I'm seeing none. But Commissioner or Vice President Vita.
No discussion. I just wanted to say thanks to my colleagues for your support on this. I'm super excited about our legislative agenda and look forward to some great projects being funded and getting done. So thank you all.
Thank you very much. Seeing no other hands raised, I will ask the Secretary to take the roll.
Commissioner Bourne.
Aye.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner Severson.
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer.
Aye.
Commissioner Hassan. Commissioner French.
Aye.
Commissioner Forney,
Aye.
Vice President Vita,
Aye.
President Cogill.
Aye.
You have 8 ayes and 1 absent.
That carries. We have 2 items before us in unfinished business. The first is a resolution 2021-230, resolution authorizing the use of $175,989 from the 2021 general fund budget appropriation for capital outlay for the acquisition and improvement of a park site in the North Loop neighborhood of Minneapolis. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the resolution? Any discussion? Commissioner Severson.
Thank you, President Cogill. I would ask that we support this evening. I know Mr. Curry has been doing a lot of work over there, and it has exploded in population. I think this is a great opportunity to offer some space by our wonderful park board.
Thank you, Commissioner Severson. Vice President Vita.
Yes, this is super exciting. Lots of folks have reached out and doing great work in this area. It's a growing population, growing area with the least bit of parks in our city. So I'm excited to see this move forward and hope that we support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President. Any other hands raised? I'm not seeing any. Thanks, staff and the neighborhood for all their work. I'll ask the secretary to take the roll.
Commissioner Bourne,
Aye.
Commissioner Musich,
Aye.
Commissioner Severson,
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hassan, Commissioner French, Commissioner Forney,
Aye.
Vice President Vita,
Aye.
President Cogill.
Aye.
You have 8 ayes and 1 absent.
Very good. That carries. Our last item on unfinished business is Resolution 2020-167, a resolution that the board take from the table. Resolution 2020-167 approving encroachment permit for use of 15 square feet of land in front of the subject property at 3030 West River Parkway, encroaching upon parkland at West River Parkway within the Mississippi Gorge Regional Park, and collecting appropriate fees associated with this encroachment. Do I have a motion?
I think Commissioner Forney said so moved, and I will second.
Commissioner Forney has moved. Let's note that Commissioner Forney has moved. Commissioner Musich has seconded the resolution. Is there any discussion? I'll start with Commissioner Meyer, who has raised his hand.
Thank you. I would urge commissioners to vote against this. I do think it's appropriate, that they have requested an up or down vote to get a verdict, one way or the other, but I think the answer should be no, because Park Board Ordinance 2-7 is no person shall post, paste, fasten, paint, or affix any placard, bill, notice, or sign on any structure, tree, stone, fence, thing, or enclosure within any park or parkway. And the general thing that I would really like to avoid is to avoid our parkways being turned into a strip mall of parking lots and billboards. And I think we should try to avoid that happening. And if we actively approve this, we will invite other applications throughout the system to have their signs approved as well. If there are other signs elsewhere that are not authorized, then staff should revisit those. And if commissioners disagree and think that something like this should be approved, then we should have a policy with guidelines about what type of signs and where we're going to approve them. But I think it would be unwise to approve this, so I will vote no.
Thank you, Commissioner Meyer. Commissioner Forney.
Thank you. Yeah, okay, thought I was on mute. I was in favor of this, and after hearing of our ordinance, and I guess I am agreement with the ordinance that I'm sorry, I don't think we're going to be seeing any strip malls or that type of thing, but I do have difficulty in authorizing signage, and that's just a general rule that I believe that we should adhere to. I believe, as Commissioner Meyer indicated, that there might be some places where we already have allowed it and everything like that, and it possibly should be revisited. But encroachments are sensitive things, and signage, I know, well, Commissioner Meyer and I have both been on the Planning Commission, that it's always very dicey, whether you have a flag, you know, whether all the various ways that you can do signage. And I think that we should adhere to our ordinance. And I would hope that the Danish Center could find an alternative way to identify their facility. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Forney. I have just noted that we do need to vote to take this from the table. So I will, that is what was just moved. So I will ask the secretary to take the roll on taking the resolution 2020-167 from the table.
Commissioner Bourne.
What point of
Yeah.
Commissioner Musich.
Commissioner French will get there will be opportunity for you to speak after this.
Who's asking a point of information?
Commissioner French, go ahead.
What exactly are we voting on right now?
Taking the item from the table, and then we will vote after that on the main motion.
Thank you.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner Severson.
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer.
Aye.
Commissioner Hassan. Commissioner French.
Aye.
Commissioner Forney.
Aye.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
President Cogill.
Aye.
You have 8 ayes, 1 absent.
Thank you. That carries, and the resolution has been taken from the table. I will now turn it over to Commissioner Musich, who has her hand raised.
Thank you, President Cogill. I'd be interested in understanding from staff whether or not this is a new sign or the replacement of a sign that has been in this location since the establishment of the Danish American Center.
Thank you, Commissioner Musich, for the question. I'll turn that over to Assistant Superintendent Schroeder or Council Rice.
President Cogill, if I might start, I think Council Rice may have some additional insights to offer. This, Commissioner Musich, this was a sign that we understand was stolen. It had been in place for some time. We don't actually have a record of when it was first installed. So this was a sign that they have, that they are trying to replace in the location where it was stolen from. But I think importantly, I do want to note that as staff has been going through this, we have certain criteria we look at for certain kinds of encroachments. And since this was first brought to the board, we've been in discussion with legal counsel about what happens with signs on parkland. And I think it would be appropriate for the commissioners to hear from Council Rice on this subject also.
Council Rice.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, this matter's been before the board for close to a year. The sign has been there for a long time. As your staff and planning staff has worked on these issues of encroachments on park property, I think you're seeing the first type you've seen are these alley or access ways that you've approved for the university and you approved on the drain pipe where at least the driveway access is one that you've looked at before, where the board has a policy of if there's no other feasible appropriate access to property, will you allow people to transverse your property? The board does now want those recorded. They do collect a fee, as you had in the university, as well as improvements, betterments. The matter before the board now, under Resolution 2020-167, is a request by Danabo to permit a sign which is on the park board property. I think Commissioner Meyer has correctly stated the board does have an ordinance, 2.7, which prohibits signage on property. We also think, as we've examined this, my partner Ann Walther has done a lot of work in the First Amendment area. Signs inherently can be directed at speech and make a statement that implicates the First Amendment right. And I think the board becomes an arbiter if you start allowing signs, what type of signs. And if you approve this sign, which has many commendable reasons to do it, history possibly being one of them, but if you approve this sign, you're now opening yourself up for someone else to come along and ask for another type of sign. And then the board has to start choosing what types of signs. So you could have a Ukrainian center or another national center. You might even be asked to put up signs for religious institutions or other types of signs. And as we've learned, sometimes through bitter experience, the board really needs to be content neutral. The board also has to be, as we haven't proactively gone out and looked to remove items, but when matters have come clearly to the board's attention and the board and its staff is made aware that there is an encroachment on board property of any type, the policy has been to bring these matters for the board for adjudication or resolution. And so we do think it's appropriate that this request now be brought before the board and the merits be stated. But I would agree with Commissioner Meyer's line of arguments, as well as what Assistant Superintendent Schroeder is saying. I think to grant this permit sets the board up to have to potentially be faced with doing it in other cases. So for that reason, I think the better choice on the board is to deny this request.
Thank you for that additional clarification, Councilor Rice. So along this section of Parkway, there's a number of really large signs, including for Minnehaha Academy and Beckettwood. Are those on private property or are those placed on parkland?
President Cogill, Commissioner Musich, I checked that this afternoon, in fact, and it would appear that the sign for Minneapolis Academy encroaches about 30 feet onto parkland, and a sign for Beckettwood encroaches about 60 feet onto parkland. So as Councilor Rice was stating, we don't typically take those up unless there is some modification or reconstruction or some other element that would change them. The board, of course, could direct us to be more actively pursuing these. It does take some time and resources, but Commissioner Musich, you are correct. There are other signs that are encroaching onto parkland in the proximity of the one that's the subject of 2020-167.
Okay, so if we were to deny this request this evening, yet do nothing about every other sign that is doing essentially the same thing, but taking up a larger amount of park space, are we opening ourselves up for lawsuit by not holding every property abutting our property to the same standard? And perhaps that's a question for Councilor Rice.
Councilor Rice, go ahead if you have a response.
Mr. President, I learned something new in the last 30 seconds. I'm not aware of the Minnehaha sign. I'm aware that the signs existed in Beckettwood. I didn't know they were on the park board property, and I think now that we're aware of it, I think our planning director should write some letters and asking that those signs not be on our property. Be my advice.
Thank you.
For the additional clarification. I have no further questions at this time. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Musich. Commissioner Severson, followed by Commissioner Meyer.
Thank you, President Cogill. So it's really unfortunate that, I'm hearing that their sign gets stolen. Do we know when the sign was stolen?
President Cogill, President Cogill, Commissioner Severson, we don't know exactly when it was stolen, but we have been, we presume it was in the months before this was originally brought to the board. So I'm imagining it's sometime during 2020 that it was somehow stolen or some other way of being lost to the site.
Okay. So this was approved in 1924 by then Superintendent Worth and has not been approved since, correct?
President Cogill and Commissioner Severson, I'm not aware that it was originally approved in 1924. Maybe Christine Downey could clarify that.
President Cogill, Commissioner Severson, I think you may be mixing this up with the other encroachment. This was never approved by Board of Commissioners of the Park Board. So there was a question of whether the permit was ever given by the Park Board, but this actually was never, there was never an encroachment permit granted by the Park Board for this sign.
Good, that's good to know. So and I really appreciate Commissioner Musich's comments and that our questions, because that's kind of where I was going. I mean, I have serious valid concerns that, I mean, did Minnehaha get a permit? Minnehaha Academy, did they have a permit to be on our property with their signage?
President Cogill, Commissioner Severson, we've only looked into that just within the last few hours, and we don't have an answer for you, but we can get an answer for you. I can't tell you that they have or have not, for either that or for Beckettwood.
Okay. If somebody were to have a sign, how often would they have to, is it just a one-time deal that they would have to get a permit to put a sign up, or is there like a renewal? What does that look like?
President Cogill, Commissioner Severson, it's a permit one time for the presence of that facility that they'd be placing on parkland.
So can signs be removed at any time at the will of this board?
President Cogill, Commissioner Severson, the process that we would use would be to issue a letter to the property owner and to work with the property owner to get that sign relocated in an appropriate amount of time.
Yeah. So I have real concerns about this, and I absolutely hate saying this, but again, I think we may need to table this until we figure out the situation with Minnehaha Academy and the other mentioned. I didn't catch it. Who else had a sign on her property? But I mean, this is most certainly could be viewed as unfair or biased. And so I mean. I just don't think it's fair that, other agencies or other organizations have signs and this organization can't. So I think we need to go one way or go the other, and sending letters out today. I mean, that's great. I think that's the right idea. But in the meantime, I'd hate to tell these people no if we're allowing other organizations to have signage on our property. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Severson. I would encourage commissioners.
President Cogill, I've been trying to raise my hand for a little bit here. Just when you get a
Commissioner,
second, you want to speak.
Thank you, Commissioner Bourne.
Point of order. Was that a motion to table?
No, I didn't put that motion out there, but I'd be interested if anybody else was possibly interested in entertaining that.
If I could, I would like to say I would encourage commissioners to consider voting on the resolution itself. I think that consideration is valid. As I understand it, it is not proactive allowance of the signage, but just a lack of resources to identify and reach out to those other organizations. I would hope that our staff could now do that. given this particular issue being brought up at this time. So I wouldn't be in support of tabling. Commissioner Forney is next.
Thank you very much. I hear what everybody's saying that, oh, we got this, we got that, as far as people who are not in compliance with our ordinance. I'm not aware that our staff is proactively going out looking for encroachments. And what I'm speaking of is, we all know about the Ferris wheel. And I don't believe that staff was proactively looking for whatever, but I'm sure there are lots and lots and lots of encroachments of different sorts where somebody's sidewalk or retaining wall or whatever is coming into our property. And if we would like to put staff, full throttle on looking for those encroachments, okay, we better budget for it. I hope that we don't turn our staff into those types of policing and everything. This is an isolated situation that I think we should deal with. And I believe that Council Rice has advised us, and I think he brings up some incredibly valid points. Number one, we have an ordinance and we should be observing it. And I totally feel for, this particular situation, but I think that we need to adhere, and whether or not forward we start proactively doing these things, like I say, there's lots and lots of encroachments throughout the system. And I mean, like realtor signs, you can't put up an open house sign, you can't put up any of those types of things. But, staff isn't out there every, day looking for those types of encroachments, so please be careful what you ask for.
Thank you, Commissioner Forney. Commissioner Bourne, followed by Commissioner Meyer.
Thank you, President Cogill. With all due respect, Commissioner Forney and Commissioner Meyer are just being silly here. This is an example of where the park board picks on the little guy or the little institution. Here we have a tiny little nonprofit that is trying to follow the rules. And they had something stolen that's been there for God knows how long, inviting people to come in to tour their little nonprofit and do a little bit of community good in the world. And then they had something stolen from them. They're trying to follow the rules to replace it. They interacted with the government, and now the government's kind of jerking them around. While I hate to say it, but to Commissioner Musis's point, down the road, we've got charter schools with signs going on to park property that we're probably not going to do anything about. And to Commissioner Forney's point, there are some folks that live not too far away from her that have docks in the water that we know darn well have docks in the water, and we could put a stamp on an envelope and tell them to get out. And for 12 years that I've been on this board, we've never had the time to do it. We've never had the time to do it. We've never had the time to do it. So it's the powerful and the rich. The U of M gets to preserve 20% of their parking spaces at Fraser Hall, and we frame that as a reduction. And when we had the opportunity to eliminate it, we've got private docks in the system. This is a tiny little nonprofit that wants to put up a tiny little sign. Can we just let them do this, please? This is just they've been trying to follow the rules for a year. If we say no to it, frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if an organization like this, after being told no, theoretically just went and put up their sign anyway, because what they're hearing tonight is that we don't have the resources to go tell bigger folks to take them down. So we're probably not going to pick on the little guy. We're just sending a message to say, don't follow the rules. So, and we do have signs all over. We do have signs all over the park system. Let's just stop being silly here. And I would encourage my colleagues to support this resolution for this tiny little group, and let's stop picking on them. We just have this really long track record of picking on folks that don't have a lot of power, picking on folks that are trying to follow the rules. Like, how many times have folks from the mosque come and say that they've got some safety issues? We're trying to follow the rules. We're picking on them. Thank you to the Institute for following the rules. Thank you for trying to get our permission on this. I hope that it passes tonight. If it doesn't, maybe I'll come put up a sign for you guys and just see what happens. I would like to.
Thank you, Commissioner Bourne. Commissioner Meyer for the second time, followed by Commissioner Severson for the second time.
I mean, I'll just let Commissioner Bourne know that the sign is already there, so that is already done. But to my awareness, there are the two others at Beckerwood, at Minnehaha. All three of those institutions could put their signs further back on their own property, and that is what we should ask them to do, so that we stay consistent and don't get ourselves into a really terrible situation of being basically forced for First Amendment reasons and other reasons to allow signs all over the grand rounds. So I really urge commissioners to vote against this.
Thank you, Commissioner Meyer. Commissioner Severson.
I mean, this is interesting. This is a good conversation, but I don't think we ask people. I think we tell them to remove their property off of our property if this is the case. This brings up some interesting questions I have about De La Salle High School, because I know they have lots of signage, perhaps on our property. And I'm really concerned about Commissioner Forney's sentiment. I mean, I'm not interested in supporting $1 million privileged organizations to get passes where the everyday ordinary folks are held to account. I personally, the way I grew up, where I come from, I have issues with that. That is typically how government works. That's typically how wealthy white privilege works, and I'm not interested in that. I grew up differently, so either we hold everybody into account or we don't. So I'm going to vote for this tonight until all the other signs are taken off of our property, and we do have the staff to do it. And I'm interested in giving board direction if that's what is needed. But I'm going to support them getting their sign tonight or leaving their sign there until we have everybody else's sign, or until there's more definitive direction that says every sign that's on our property needs to be removed by August 1st, 2021, or this is the actions that the park board is going to take. Thank you.
Point of information, President Cogill?
The next person with their hand raised is Commissioner Musich, and then I will come to your point of information.
Thank you.
Commissioner Musich for the second time.
Thank you, President Cogill. I have a question for Council Rice about the issuance of encroachments. So if we issue this encroachment this evening, do we then have the authority to revoke this encroachment if we choose to request that unpermitted encroachments be removed at other locations? Sort of a follow-up question to what Commissioner Severson had been describing.
I believe, I don't have the actual encroachment document in front of me. Perhaps Christine could look at it. Typically, the boards reserve the right to revoke any permit that they have, but I would think if the board is going to issue it today and say within a matter of weeks or months revoke it, I'm not sure that's the intent of the provision. Mr. Schroeder, do you have the language of the, I thought I had it here, of our encroachment permits? We usually reserve the right to say that the permission can be revoked.
President Cogill and Council Rice and Commissioner Musich, we do, I don't have the language in front of me either, but we have framed them in every case as revocable permits.
And Assistant Superintendent Schroeder, right now we've sent them a letter giving them a date at which they have to have removed the replaced sign by. Is that accurate?
President Kogel and Commissioner Musich, I'm going to defer to that. I believe we have, but I'm going to defer that to Christine Downey.
I'm sorry, President Cogill, Commissioner Musich, we do send out violation letters to those persons who have encroachments on our land. No, in this instance, with the people or the parties that applied for this encroachment permit, because it had been tabled and they didn't have an encroachment permit, we then had to send out a letter asking them to remove the items from the land and gave them a date. I don't have the letter in front of me, unfortunately. And then we give them a date for them to remove it and restore the land. And then they asked for an extension because they were trying to get this matter untabled with the Board of Commissioners. So that's typically what happens. We give them a date and we give them plenty of time in most cases, especially if there's a seasonal issue, as in winter. But in most cases, we give them a month or month and a half to remove it and restore the property back to its normal status. But in this case, yes, we can ask them to restore the land. I'm sorry if that
Okay, thank you.
answered your question.
That answered my question. Thank you. So I guess if this fails this evening, I would like to see us extend the time period in which they are given to remove their sign to match whatever the timeline is that we are providing to other entities that are encroaching on parkland in this segment of the parks, so that people are being treated fairly. And I believe that's up to staff discretion, but if you need a board resolution on that, let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Musich. Council Rice, is this item, could you provide a little bit more context regarding notice?
Sure. Yeah, I think Christine was accurate. I believe that Denbo's been notified they had until July 15th, I think, to extend the sign, or rather the staff has given an extension so that this matter can come before the board so that the sign doesn't come down and then get put back up. And I do think the staff has tried to be, put people on notice who are on park board land that in order to be on public land, they need to have permission by the board, and that it's not automatic, and that people cannot claim they have a right to be on park board land. I think there is a courtesy matter here that these signs are not inexpensive. They're important to the institutions that want to place the signs up, as they show pride, and the sign that they put up is a very attractive sign at Danabo, as the other ones are, I'm sure. But at some point, the board has to look at its ordinance and its policies and make a decision. I think the staff has used a fair amount of discretion, as not, just run out and take things down, and the fact that property owners are put on notice that they need a permit removes any expectation or sense of proprietary right they might have to be on our land.
Thank you, Council. Commissioner Bourne, your point of order.
Thanks, President Cogill. It was actually a point of inquiry. I'm hearing some conflicting information, and maybe the applicant could best answer this question. Is the sign up right now or not?
Thank you, Commissioner Bourne. If I'm not mistaken, the sign is up.
I'm just getting some. Can we get a definitive? That
Assistant Superintendent Schroeder,
that shouldn't be hard to get a definitive answer to right now. Can we get a definitive answer?
Assistant Superintendent.
President Cogill and Commissioner Bourne, I'm hoping Christine Downey can help answer this. It's confusing because I understood that the post for certain still remained, and at one point I thought they were in the process of fabricating a new replacement sign, and that sign might exist but is not in place. But maybe Ms. Downey could help us understand that condition.
I biked there last night. It's definitely there.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Meyer.
Thank you. Thank you for that. With that, I would ask for a motion on Resolution 2020-167 approving.
I'd like the floor for a second time.
Commissioner Bourne, you do not have the floor. Approving encroachment permit for use of 15.
I can't raise my hand for I can't raise my hand for the
Commissioner
second
Bourne,
time.
you do not have the floor at the moment. Approving encroachment permit for use of 15 square feet of land in front of the subject property at 3030 West River Parkway, encroaching upon parkland at West River Parkway within the Mississippi Gorge Regional Park and collecting appropriate fees associated with this encroachment. Do I have a motion? Do I have a motion?
Can you read the motion again, please?
Again, I am moving resolution 2020-167, or I'm asking for a motion on resolution 2020-167, a resolution approving encroachment permit for the use of 15 square feet of land in front of the subject property at 3030 West River Parkway, encroaching upon parkland at West River Parkway within Mississippi Gorge Regional Park and collecting appropriate fees associated with this encroachment.
The second.
The resolution has been moved and seconded.
I'd like to speak for the first time to the motion, if I could, President Kogel.
Commissioner Bourne.
Thank you, President Kogel. Assistant Superintendent Schroeder, I've heard so many times from our staff that we don't have the time to chase these things down, and we learned of a couple of other undocumented encroachments tonight that council is saying we should send out some letters tomorrow. I've sat in the boardroom multiple times and said, hey, there's an undocumented encroachment in front, like there's a giant dock in the water on our right of way at Cedar Lake in President Kogel's district. And before that, President Tabb's district. And before that, Commissioner Nordstrom and Commissioner Mason. And how many letters have we sent out telling people to remove their docks on Cedar Lake?
Commissioner Bourne, this is not germane to the resolution.
I'm sorry, I think it is. I mean, it's just our staff have a limited amount of time, and I want, and I know on our staff's work plan is following up on those undocumented encroachments. I don't remember a board direction looking to find the Danish American Institute sign and give them a removal, but the board does have direction to follow up on the encroachments on Cedar Lake. I'm just wondering if this doesn't pass tonight, Assistant Superintendent Schroeder, knowing that staff actually does have direction right now and is aware of undocumented encroachments around Cedar Lake with docks in President Kogel's district, I would have to imagine that you're never going to have the time to follow up on this if this doesn't pass tonight. Is that, am I right in assuming that you're just too busy to ever follow up on this?
President Kogel, Commissioner Bourne, frankly, I don't think that's a very fair question because now it's been made public and people will be criticizing staff for not pursuing it based on basically the very question you're asking. I will say that that we have no accurate count on the number of undocumented encroachments that exist throughout parkland. And they exist in any number of conditions and in any number of types. But there are a huge number, and it would take more resources than we have right now to be actively pursuing all of those, including the ones that have been identified publicly through this kind of an action.
Okay, I appreciate that might not be a fair question. Let me ask a fair one. When did we find out about this undocumented encroachment, and how?
President Kogel, Commissioner Bourne, Christine Downey would probably be best prepared to answer that, but I believe it was after their sign was stolen and as they were looking to put the new sign up. But Christine could probably give you a better time frame.
President Cogill, Commissioner Bourne, yes, we were made aware of this when they applied for the encroachment permit, and that was to replace the stolen sign.
So when they were trying to follow the rules, when they were trying to follow the rules, they got in trouble. Oh, okay. If I went around and we just found out about some undocumented encroachments tonight. It sounds like staff is going to send out some letters. If President Cogill and I were to, for example, walk around Cedar Lake and write down all the addresses of where there are docks in Cedar Lake, could we get some letters sent out at the same time? Like if we just do that work?
Commissioner Bourne, this is not germane to the resolution in any way. I'd also note that we're going through an entire master planning process of Cedar Lake, which includes all of those parcels. We've had multiple public meetings regarding this exact issue.
Yeah, I mean, we have been talking about that for 12 years and for 12 summers. Those really wealthy, powerful folks have had private docks on the lake, and here's a tiny little nonprofit that tried to follow the rules. I don't see any permits coming in for private docks on the lake. And so, I mean, here's a tiny little nonprofit trying to follow the rules. Let's just not be silly. Like, either table this and let's not have time to follow up on it, or let's just vote to approve it.
Thank you, Commissioner Bourne. It is, in fact, the item being considered before us right now. It has been moved and seconded, and I do hope that we will soon be able to vote. Commissioner Severson.
I mean, this is going to open a can of worms, and I frankly disagree with you, President Cogill. Them docks are very germane to what we're talking about right now, because it's an encroachment on our property, which these signs are an encroachment on our property. So I'm just going to say, I mean, you know, if this was North Minneapolis, I mean, we would get just steamrolled on this, and everyone would go along with it. But now it's going to, I have real concerns. And yes, I believe a letter needs to be sent to every individual that's encroaching on our property, period. If that's the route we're taking, let's take that route. Now, I want to support council because it's council's recommendation, because I respect council and he is brilliant and his memory is, I just want half of what his memory is. Okay. So either we're going to do this or we're not going to do this. And like I said, either we support this, or we tell them, hey, you guys can have your signs out until August 21st or whatever date we're going to ask everybody else to remove their docks off of our properties and remove their signs off our properties. Like this is, I mean, if we're going to do it, let's do it right. Let's not half step and allow, you know, the privileged and the extreme wealthy to get away with government as they typically do.
Thank you, Commissioner Severson. Commissioner Musich.
Thank you. I have a point of parliamentary inquiry for parliamentary.
You are recognized.
Thank you. When we have an item on the agenda before us, are we allowed to speak to items that are not specifically outlined in the resolution? Or can we just talk about whatever we want? I was told I'd be called out of order if I brought up a separate issue from what we were discussing during our last meeting, and I'm just trying to get some clarity around what I am and am not allowed to do under the board rules.
Mr. President, commissioners should, under our board rules, confine their comments to the matter before the body. That's the most productive use of deliberative body's time. That said, commissioners do make arguments trying to persuade their colleagues, and I guess how far it goes is a matter to the president's under the rules, and I believe this president has on a couple of occasions asked commissioners to confine their remarks to the matter before the body, but I don't know that has much help, but we do have a rule on that.
So it's up to the discretion of the president whether or not the speaker is staying within the bounds of the topic at hand.
Basically.
Thank
you.
Thank you, Commissioner Musich. I am not seeing any other hands. I will now ask the secretary to take the roll on the resolution.
Commissioner Bourne, Commissioner Bourne,
Aye. Aye.
Commissioner Musich,
Pass.
Commissioner Severson,
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer,
No.
Commissioner Hassan, Commissioner French,
No.
Commissioner Forney,
No.
Vice President Vita,
No.
Commissioner Musich,
No.
President Kogel.
No.
You have 2 ayes, 6 nays, 1 absent.
The resolution does not carry. I'm now going to recess the full board and move into committee. Going to start with the Recreation Committee. Then I will go to the Administration and Finance Committee. Then we'll come back to the full board to close out the 2 items that are coming up for consideration this evening. Chair French.
Time being 7 o'clock, I'd like to call the Recreation Committee to order. Secretary, please take the roll.
Commissioner Musich, Commissioner Hassan, Vice President Vita,
Present.
Vice Chair Severson,
Present.
Chair French.
Yeah, I'd like to thank, here, present, sorry. Can we,
You have a quorum.
I'd like to approve the minutes and the agenda for for this committee.
So moved.
Secretary, please take the roll.
Commissioner Musich,
Aye.
Commissioner Hassan, Vice President Vita,
Aye.
Vice Chair Severson,
Aye.
Chair French.
Aye.
You have 4 ayes, 1 absent.
Give me, I'm trying to pull up I lost my agenda. Okay, can somebody move this motion? Can somebody move this resolution?
I move resolution 2021-234, resolution changing all current user aquatic fees associated with North Commons Water Park from the current level to 0.
Does anybody want to have discussion? Anybody have any questions they would like to ask? Any discussion? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner Severson.
You know, with the weather that we've had and the summers that the summer youth violence and the things that are particularly taken in North Minneapolis, as you've read or that you've assumed, I applaud Commissioner French for putting this on the agenda and having this conversation. We need as many kids in programming in North Minneapolis as absolutely possible. We need to break down any barriers for those programs. I know there's a lot of conversations of what this could look like. The former representative from District 2, Commissioner Olson, and I have had many conversations on what recreation looks like and who benefits from it. And I want to continue to support his legacy and making sure that all of our kids have the opportunity to cool off, learn how to swim, and just have pools accessible. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Severson. I'm not quite sure who was first, Vice President Vita or Commissioner Musich. I don't know.
I'll go next.
Okay.
I was actually before Severson as well. But so I have I'm gonna support this resolution tonight, but I will say that I have some concerns. some of my concerns are around the use of this. Once folks realize that North Commons is now a free water park, like will we start to get more usage, and will we have enough staff to handle it, and will the pool be able to handle influx in folks using it? I have friends that come from surrounding suburbs that have the money to pay for North Commons pool for their children, and they use it because it's close to their house. So now they'll get to use the pool for free. Again, I'm going to support this, but I really wish we would have looked at ways to utilize our scholarship dollars that we have put aside. Because the other thing is, I think Northside kids should have the opportunity to go use other pools in our system, like Lupien. And maybe if they apply for a scholarship, the families could get funds to use Lupien and or North Commons or Phillips or whatever pools we have available versus assuming that North Commons is the pool that they all want to use. So those are my concerns. I'll be supporting this. I would also like to know from staff how much money North Commons pool makes. If someone could answer that question tonight. If not, I can follow up at a later date. Thank you, Chair French.
My apologies, Vice President Vital, for not calling on you first. I can't really see my screen right now. Commissioner Musich.
Thank you, Chair French. Is there staff? Oh, I see Assistant Superintendent Cox. Were you able to answer Commissioner Vital's questions before I begin mine, or?
Yeah, I think staff that's available.
You're on mute, Assistant Superintendent Cox.
Thank you so much. Chair French, Commissioner Musich, we budget for about $38,000 per year for revenue for North Commons. However, North Commons does not typically operate in the black. We typically run in a deficit for that park, but it makes about $38,000 a year.
Okay, thank you. Did you have additional questions that you didn't get answered, Commissioner Vital, before I start? That was the only one I remembered right off the top of my head.
No, I think mine, thank you for making sure that my questions get answered. I think mine were more comments and concerns outside of how much revenue we generate for North Commons Park.
Okay, thank you. So Assistant Superintendent Cox, thanks for being here with us today. The questions I have around this change is just as part of our budgeting process, we have staff recommend to us the fees that are associated with our activities and other pay for service options within the system. When this decision or when this request came forward from Commissioner French, was it just we're going to do this, or was there more of a discussion around what's the best option for us to be doing moving forward in terms of reducing fees to increase access and allow people that may otherwise not have the ability to utilize some of the cooling options in the city to have better access?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Musich, could you restate? I'm not sure I understand your question.
Sure. I'm just trying to understand if this was a, hey, I'm putting this forward, this resolution, I just want to let you know, or was staff consulted around what is the best path forward to give people access to options to stay cool in the city? Because I guess as part of our budgeting process, I assume that's what we're doing with you guys, is we're saying, hey, we want to find the best path forward in terms of generating revenue to help offset some of the costs associated with the programs that we're offering, as well as ensuring that we're pricing things to allow people to have access. So are there other things that we should be considering changing the fees on that we have in our budget that achieve some of the same goals that this resolution appears to be trying to achieve?
Chair French, Commissioner Musich, I personally did not have a conversation about this in particular at the top of our budget process. However, I do recognize that we are in a pretty unique circumstance given the unfortunate experience that the young man had at North Commons a week or two ago, and also the unusual heat that we're experiencing for this time of the season. We typically don't reach these temperatures until later in the season. So I hope that answered your question. I did not have a conversation at the top of the budget process, but we're in unique circumstances. I would also like to say that perhaps if there are other questions, maybe the board would like to see a presentation on some of the thoughts that staff have related to this. Would that be helpful, or would you like to just continue to ask a few questions?
I think that would be helpful, because then I can frame my next couple of questions based on the information you're able to provide us.
Thank you. So I will ask that Director Humphrey lead us through a presentation, and then both of us will stand for questions.
My audio okay?
Yep.
Great.
Director Humphrey, just make sure, Director Humphrey, when you're talking, make sure you're just facing towards the screen, because we hear you better when you do that, as opposed to turning away.
Thank you, Superintendent. Thank you, Chair French and Commissioners. This is a quick slide presentation on a little bit of background on North Commons Water Park and a little bit on our aquatics program, lifeguarding in general. So next slide, please. So a little bit on the fee history at North Commons Water Park. For example, in 2019, we removed and reduced fees due to opening late with major mechanical issues. The kids area was inoperable, and it had about a $35,000 revenue impact. And we also added additional amenities outside the gates for cooling options in 2019. Next slide. Typically, currently the water park is open 7 days a week, 1 to 7 p.m. And then late season, we are open 4 to 7 on Fridays and 1 to 7 Saturdays and Sundays. Next slide, please. And the programs we offer there are open swim, lap swimming, water walking, swimming lessons, and we also have a swim camp there as well. Next slide. And this is the capacity. It's 647 swimmers. So about 650 people can be in the gates at any one time. Our average attendance for open swimmer general time is a couple hundred people per day. Obviously on warmer days, it's higher than that. On cooler days, it's less than that. And you see our total guests over the past few years. 2020, we did not operate. As you know, 2019 with the late opening and the amenity issues, our attendance was much lower. Next slide, please. And these are our current fees for the water park. So 42 inches and taller is $5, 42 inches and under is $3. We have reduced rates after 5 o'clock. And then we have season pass rates for singles or family members, or depending on how big your family is. Next slide. And this is the revenue and expenses over the past few years at North Commons Water Park. So if you look in 2019, obviously with the reduced fees and the late opening, there was not as much revenue. 2018 and 2019, we averaged around $44,000 or so a year, with expenses around $210,000 per year. Next slide, please. And this is kind of our current normal staffing model for a day there. We typically have 8 lifeguards scheduled, 7 attendants scheduled, doing various things throughout the water park. One impact of potentially the water park being free with increased attendance, we do lifeguard the pool every day as a capacity. So we always have enough lifeguards there, so we never would have to not let people in the pool. We would probably have to up our numbers of attendants to deal with, the additional bodies and people on the deck, additional admissions people, etc. Next slide, please. And then just a little bit of an update on kind of system-wide on the lifeguards. If we could go to the next slide, please. So in an ideal world, we would have 240 lifeguards throughout the system. That would allow us to not have to have everyone working. We'd have a lot more flexibility in our scheduling. We could guard all of our beaches, all of our water parks, be able to deal no problem with sick days, vacations, or anything else like that. As it happened this year, we had 149 people we put through water safety training. Of those 149 people, we offered jobs to 135 of them. 47 did not accept positions, and there were others as well that already had found employment outside of the system. We were able to, right now, we have 83 lifeguards on staff. If we had 135 to 140 lifeguards on staff, we would probably be able to open or guard, I should say, the rest of the normal beaches that we guard. But right now, our shortcoming in lifeguards are having an effect on the beaches much more than they are the water parks or Weber National Swimming Pool. Next slide, please. This is just some ways that our recruitment for lifeguards who we've advertised to, the classes that we taught, and just other general information about our recruitment of lifeguards. Next slide. So the first 5 or 6 slides are more concentrated on the items regarding directly at North Commons Water Park, and the last few are kind of an overview of our lifeguarding situation in general throughout the system. And I'll take any questions that you may have.
Commissioner Music, were you done asking your questions, or did you want to just continue? I can't hear you.
I'm muted. Sorry about that. I do have more questions, so if I can still speak, that would be great. But if you wanted to recognize Superintendent Bangora first, I think he's got something to say about the presentation materials.
I'm gonna recognize Commissioner Severson, then recognize Superintendent Bangora. So
So I should finish my comments and questions then?
You can finish, Commissioner Music.
Okay, thank you. So thank you for the presentation. The rationale that I'm hearing for lowering the fees is to increase access because of the intense heat and the need to give kids things to do. So understanding that, do we need to, as a body, consider changing the fees for our other pay to access aquatic facilities? And that's a question for Director Humphrey or Assistant Superintendent Cox. Like, as part of our budgeting, we determined that we needed to have people pay. And now because of current conditions, we're saying that needs to change, but we're only directing it to one location. Do we need to be considering that for our other locations as well?
Chair French, Commissioner Music, that would be a board direction. I don't have the numbers or what any kind of financial impact would be for, per se, Lupient Water Park or Phillips Aquatic Center offhand on what that would be. We just prepared what the impact would be at North Commons Water Park in particular.
Okay, and do we understand what the staffing impacts are? Like, are we able to do this at this location without further putting people in jeopardy at beaches? Right now we have a lot of unstaffed beaches, and that's, like, I'm very concerned someone's going to drown there. So I want to be sure that we're not further hamstringing our ability to protect people's lives as they swim across the city.
Well, Chair French, Commissioner Music, as far as lifeguarding goes, it would not have a major impact on lifeguarding at other facilities that we're currently guarding. We would need additional attendance staff at North Commons to work with the potentially larger crowds. The variable here is that we're not 100% sure how much the crowd will change with a change in price. I'm under the assumption that the numbers will go up, but will they go up 20% or 60% or what that number will be? We're going to have to be prepared for the largest jump there could be, and then adjust from there.
So are you telling me that we would restrict access to the number of people we're able to safely accommodate with the lifeguarding staff and available attendants?
Well, we're currently staffed. We lifeguard the pool right now to max capacity. So we could take the max capacity that is allowed in the pool, which I believe is 647 people. We lifeguard that to that now. We would add additional attendance to the rotations at North Commons to deal with potentially larger crowds. But there wouldn't be a plan to restrict access unless we got to capacity at the pool. And we'd have to do as we do at Lupient or at Weber or at any other facility that's at capacity. At that point, we would have to limit access on people left.
And do we currently have enough staff on hand in terms of attendance to staff to having that many, to the maximum number of people in the pool?
Chair French, Commissioner Musich, we would have to probably do a little bit of juggling initially. For example, if the board adopted this and it went into effect, say tomorrow, we would have to do some quick juggling. Our aquatics manager and myself, after conversation with her and some of the guards, do feel that it's something that we can do, but we will have to add some staff to North Commons Water Park.
Okay. And so the question I still have, I guess, is should we be considering this in other locations? Because it's hot everywhere in the city and we have kids that don't have access to air conditioning all over the city. So should we be considering this for other locations as well?
Can that be your last question, Commissioner Musich?
I mean, I guess so.
You can answer. You can answer that question.
So,
sorry.
Commissioner Musich, I actually agree with Director Humphrey. I think that is a philosophical question that perhaps the board should wrestle with a bit. Yes, it is hot everywhere, but if the focus of this resolution is to ensure that we have that we create greater access in the part of the city that is underrepresented, then I don't know in this moment that Director Humphrey and I are able to say that we should or shouldn't. I think we'd have to do a little bit more research.
Thank you. Commissioner Severson.
Thank you, Chair French. Lots of frustration running through my head with some of these questions. Again, I'd like to remind my colleagues one thing that I was reminded of from Commissioner Olson was the fact that South Minneapolis has all the lakes and people go swim for free over there. North Minneapolis doesn't have that. So, I mean, we're overthinking this. This is the easiest thing in the world to do, and this is not a new phenomenon. I'm going to give you some examples of my life and the people that grew up in my neighborhood, what we did. We didn't have the money to go swimming. So while kids had money to go swimming, they got to go to Weber or North Commons Park. We hung out with our friends, and some of us went to Weber swimming pool, and guess where the rest of us went? We went and swam in the creek with nails and rust and crazy stuff. But you know what? We would get together a couple hours later while all my other friends got to swim in, the pool. I got to swim in the creek with my other friends. And let me tell you, racially, it was pretty divided, right? Most of the time, the white kids got to go into the swimming pool, and then me and my other friends, we would go into the creek. Not only did we go into the creek, we went into the Mississippi River. We jumped off the doggone train tracks right by the park board. We did that because we didn't have accessible swimming pools because we didn't have the money to pay to get in them. Did our parents know we were doing this? Absolutely not. But do kids find things to get into? Absolutely. Absolutely. This is not new. Can anybody answer? Does anybody know the last time North Commons was free? Because I remember as a kid growing up, someone must have thought to themselves, let's make these pools accessible. Because guess who got to access the pools when they were free? I did. All of my friends in North Minneapolis that I grew up with got to access these pools because they were free. I don't think we're trying to make a whole bunch of money off these pools. I think we're trying to program, keep teenagers busy in an area that has very extreme high rates, not just in the state of Minnesota, but perhaps in the Midwest, of youth violence. This is not a hard decision to make, and I appreciate having conversation around it, but I'm just really concerned. I'm not interested in suburban families coming down and using our.
You can't hear you, Commissioner Severson.
That's where I'm at. How do we get the people from ours in our community into the pool at North Commons, right? If I'm not mistaken, we just took the pool over. We took the pool back, North Commons pool back over from the YMCA on Broadway because the park board didn't want to deal with it. Is there anyone here with enough historical knowledge or context to verify if that was true?
Councilor Rice, would you have that information?
I think what Commissioner Severson said is true. Yes, it is. At one point, we did have the YMCA operate the pool, but I would defer to staff about the mechanics of that. This happened, yeah, probably 15 years ago, and I don't have the operational details that I'm sure the staff has on it.
Is there any staff available right now with institutional knowledge of what Commissioner Severson was asking for?
Chair French, Commissioner Severson, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
The YMCA did run the pool for multiple years. I believe the park board took it back over a few years ago. And it hasn't been an extremely long time. I can get that information for you and get it to you sometime tomorrow.
Can you also let me know the last time North Commons was a free park for our swimming pool was free for our kids and families?
Yes, I can look that up for you.
Okay. Last but not least, I was happy with that presentation. I have a very huge concern, but I'm going to ask questions first, so I don't assume. Where did this height cost come up with? I would ask Chair French to let me finish because this is extremely important. Where does this we're going to charge kids upon their height? Where did that come from?
Chair French, Commissioner Severson, it is not uncommon that, let's say, amusement parks use a similar kind of approach, recognizing that if you are above this height, more often than not, you are of a particular age, and that is to help increase accessibility and recognize families, right? So a family who has big kids and little kids try to help balance out the cost. So it's not uncommon for amusement parks.
I appreciate that, Assistant Superintendent Cox. I would highly advise us to go away from that model. We know scientifically that most girls hit puberty before boys. And what this model will show me is that we're going to charge girls more money than we're going to charge boys because they hit puberty and grew before the boys did. This model is very inequitable and unfair. I just really want to say that I think this is a really bad idea, and I would highly encourage us to look at a different model because this one, to me, just working in the health education field for years, to me that's not healthy. Last but not least, I would encourage all my colleagues to support this tonight. Thank you for the time, Chair French.
Thank you, Vice Chair Severson. I would want to go to Superintendent Gore.
Chair French, I'm going to step back for a moment until I know there's several hands that are still up, and I think the one thing I would say is just a clarification on fees, that we're looking at probably about $50,000+ because of maintenance and staffing. So just a little bit of fee difference there. As far as supporting it, we are, I'm sure, able to support those fees this year. I would also say that we received this on Friday, which midday Friday or mid-afternoon on Friday. We understand the importance of it. Staff would have had more time that we could have brought forward to this board. What you see before you with Larry and everybody they went immediately back and started to present and bring forward some understanding. We could have, as staff, bring to this board a resolution that would have fit the needs and had a thoughtful response to you all, whether it's in scholarships or in ways that we could take care of and respond to the fees and do a real quick analysis around how we could present this to this board, so that today the confusion around all this discussion would have been done by staff. We could have brought this forward to you as commissioners. Unfortunately, we didn't have a lot of time. We had to put this forward before 5 o'clock. And so we're answering the best we can on questions. We only had a few days to respond to. We'll do our best to respond. We realize the importance of this. We're not disagreeing upon that at all. But again, I want to state that we can, through our budget and general fund, we can support this. It will be a little bit more than the $38,000. It could be somewhere around $50-some thousand. But again, we're trying to give you the best information we can on a short amount of time that was brought forward to us. And again, I would have directed staff prior to this coming forward to really bring forward to this board a more comprehensive response to what you're hearing today, because it leaves open a lot of questions for this board than to ask that we only had a short amount of time to respond to you. So with that, I'll step back.
Thank you, Superintendent Bangura. Vice President Vito.
Thank you, Chair French. I would agree with Commissioner Severson about the height discrimination. As a young girl, I was 10 years old at this height and a lot taller than my boy cousins who could get into parks for free because they were a lot shorter than me. So I would agree with that. But I just want, I wanted to say that, like, we have to remember that access is one thing, but capability is another. This community that we're talking about, a lot of these kids don't swim. And so I want us to put some energy into swim lessons as well. So we open up access to this park, but then we have a lot of kids who are not swimmers or have not been trained to swim. And we open up the doors to potential drownings or, them being upset that they can't go somewhere, when it's warm and it's free. So I don't know what staff has to do or what commissioners have to do, but we should look at options for swim lessons in this community as well. And what that kind of recruitment looks like, what the budget looks like for swim lessons.
Thank you, Vice President Vito. Commissioner Misha, did you have another question that you wanted to ask?
I do. I have a couple. So thank you for recognizing me. There have been a number of things that have been brought up during this discussion that are tangential to what's being discussed tonight. And I think it might be helpful for us as a committee to have a discussion item on a future agenda to talk through barriers to swimming access across the city and how we come to the decisions around pricing and what other things might be preventing people from accessing our aquatics facilities. Because I would like us to be a little bit more deliberate about how we make decisions like this in the future, so that we're not leaving out people in other parts of the city that don't have access to lakes, like everyone in Northeast Minneapolis as well. So if we could have something on a future agenda to discuss aquatics and access to swimming lessons and pools and lakes, swimming in general, that would be great. The question I have is whether or not my colleagues are interested in also pursuing reducing fees at our other pools. Because there are kids all over the city that have access issues to water. And we do have another water park in Northeast Minneapolis that charges fees for people to get in. So I'd be interested in hearing from my colleagues.
Are you offering an amendment, Commissioner Usage?
I'm not offering an amendment quite yet. I'd just like to hear from my colleagues if they're interested in looking at that as well.
definitely entertain them as such. Vice President Vital, is your hand up again? Or did you?
Sorry, no, I forgot to put it down. Sorry, Chair French.
Vice Chair Severson.
Thank you. I was just aware that my system had a technical glitch and questioning about what I was saying about the suburbs. So I just want to be clear that I'm not really interested in what folks that are coming into our pools from the suburbs are interested in. I'm more interested in the folks that live in North Minneapolis and may not have the opportunity to get to the swimming pools, or if financing is a barrier, how we make sure that folks that live in North Minneapolis 554-1112 have access to our pools. But the other thing I had a conversation, and why North Commons is a great pool for this, in my earnest opinion. And correct me if I'm wrong, Assistant Superintendent Cox, it's a 4-foot pool. And I understand that you can drown at any time in 2 inches of water, I think is the rumor that I've heard many times in my life, but it's a 4-foot pool. So it's not a 6-foot pool, a 7-foot pool. So it's a place where kids can bounce around that obviously are over that height, but still feel safe because they can touch the bottom and they can be comfortable with water, along with the slide. And I believe the slide is under that as well. I would encourage, I don't know how many commissioners have been to that water park, but I would encourage you to go so you have a better understanding of what that park looks like, what the feel of it is, how deep it is in areas, and the opportunities that are there for kids, particularly to swim. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Severson. Any other questions, comments, concerns from any other commissioners?
Chair French, may I add a little context?
Absolutely, go ahead.
So the deepest part of the North Commons pool is 5'7", and while that is still relatively shallow for some of our older kids and bigger kids, what we really want to get to is developing a level of competency around swimming. We want kids to both be confident and competent. We want to teach kids to swim. So I would love it if we could continue the conversation about how to drive kids, particularly North Minneapolis kids, to taking swim lessons. That way they can explore much more of our city, much more of our assets, and feel safe doing it.
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Cox. Okay, last week we had an extreme amount of heat, 90-degree weather, 4 or 5 days straight. We have a beautiful. The reason North Commons is the one I picked up is because I remember myself as a little kid who might want to go to something like that. And I was told it was like $4 or $5 to get North Commons, and that's a lot of money for some families. And if we can have this place open and have some place for kids to go that can be supervised by adults. I mean, it has several different goals we can add to this. There are several different components we can add to this. We can reduce violence and just being around water. I'd never had a swim lesson in my life, but I know how to swim because I was always at the pool. I'm not saying that's everybody's mode to learn how to swim, but being comfortable around water and just having a place to go cool off at. I think that should be enjoyed by folks who normally don't get it. And I'm open to all the pools being open. So I'm not like against Lubia being free. I'm not against any other pools being free. I just thought about North Commons, who I believe don't get they get left out of the mix a lot of times. We spent over $300,000 last year to close our parkways down. And what do we do over the north side? What do we do with basketball courts? We put locks on them. We put locks on the basketball court. And then we opened up places for other people to do recreate. So I kind of think we kind of owe it to certain parts of the city that we kind of just forgot about during this COVID. violence in the North Side is atrocious right now. We've heard Commissioner Severson again and again and again try to get us to direct resources for mitigating these violence. We can do that with this. So I'm gonna encourage that my fellow commissioners vote yes on this. And if they want other places to be free, I'd encourage them to offer an amendment to do such. I don't have a problem with it. With that being said, I'm gonna ask the secretary to take the roll. One question, let's go back to the full board tonight. I believe so, right?
Correct. Chair French, it has been requested that if this passes in committee, it goes to the full board tonight, and President Cogill has left the full board meeting open to allow for that.
It is the intention to bring it forward if it does pass.
Thank you, President Cogill. Thank you, Secretary. You can take the roll.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner Hassan. Vice Chair Severson.
Aye.
Chair French.
Aye.
You have 4 ayes, 1 absent.
That being the only thing on our agenda tonight, I would like to adjourn the Recreation Committee. So adjourn, and we're done.
Chair French, did you declare it adjourned?
Yes, I declared it adjourned. I'm sorry.
Perfect, thank you.
Like me to start?
Yes, Chair Forney, I would like to have you go to the Administration and Finance Committee now.
Thank you. I would like to convene the Administration and Finance Committee to order. With the secretary, please call the roll.
Vice President Vita.
Present.
Commissioner Musich.
Present.
Commissioner French.
Here.
Vice Chair Hassan. Chair Forney.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. I'd like to motion to approve the agenda, and as well, if we will, approve the minutes of Wednesday, June 2nd, 2020.
So moved.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner French.
Aye.
Vice Chair Hassan. Chair Forney.
Aye.
You have 4 ayes, 1 absent.
We have 2 resolutions. The first one, if somebody would like to read that resolution.
I'd like to move resolution 2021-232, a resolution approving an agreement between the Bassett Creek Watershed Management Commission, the City of Minneapolis, and the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board regarding the implementation of water quality infrastructure improvements, including stormwater best management practices for the benefit of all parties in and near Bryn Mawr Meadows Park and within the Bassett Creek watershed and the City of Minneapolis, and in alignment with MPRB policy and the approved North Service Area Master Plan.
I'm excited about this project, so I would love to have a a presentation, and I believe that Tyler Pedersen, the design project manager, is available to share that with us. There he is.
Yes, thank you, Chair Forney and commissioners. If we could just pull up the presentation, please. All right. So I just got to adjust the screen here. So this is a cooperative agreement between the 3 parties, us, the Park Board, the City of Minneapolis, and the Bassett Creek Watershed Management Commission. Next slide, please. Here we go. These are the 3 groups here. Next slide. So this is stemming from 2 concurrent projects. They're very collaborative. We've been working on them for several years now. The two projects are this water quality project that you'll be allowing by approving this agreement this evening, in committee at least. It includes the construction of 2 large ponds and surrounding native planting areas, and includes underground infrastructure to convey water, stormwater. And then the second project, as I said before, happening concurrently and collaboratively, is the MPRB funded capital improvements project for the park, and that includes several athletic fields, the play area, and likely some other areas within the park. It replaces areas of turf within with native savanna plantings on the north side of the park, which would kind of tie into the 2 large ponds for the water quality improvements project. Both will be designed, engineered, and constructed simultaneously, so it'll act as one project. They both rely on each other for their success, and they both align with approved plans of all parties. Next slide, please. So the goals of the agreement are to be mutually beneficial to each party. It's to clean water as it passes from the neighborhood through the park and to the creek. Also to clean water as it moves from the park to the creek. And it's an implementation of agency plans and policies. So there's guidance around this. And then it plans for the future resiliency of the park as amenities grow. One piece of the master plan is actually to construct a new park building. And this water quality project would allow us to tie in some of our own best management practices into that system. Next slide, please. Some of the agreement parameters, kind of the normal stuff, talks about project funding, subsequent agreements, the project design and construction, distinction between the city and MPRB elements. So some portions of this project will be funded that are funded by the watershed district will be on city right-of-way, and some elements will be on park board property. It talks about the rights of the commission. It talks about ownership and maintenance, ongoing maintenance, the ongoing cooperation, as well as dispute resolution and other miscellaneous items. Next slide, please. Some of the benefits for the park board. We do not pay for the design or construction of the improvement. That is all funded by the Watershed Management Commission, right around $900,000 for the construction of it. Another benefit is space for park stormwater to be collected before entering the creek, so we can actually construct our own best management practices for stormwater management, and tie our system into theirs, and make it all work well together. Currently, the space is turf grass. That's very underutilized, and this would add in a natural amenity for visitors, also increased habitat for animals and pollinators, and be a visually much more attractive landscape than parking lot and turf grass. Next slide, please. So this project, it fits within park planning and our own policies. It aligns with the North Service Area Master Plan. In that master plan, it says to incorporate a major stormwater facility within Bryn Mawr Meadows that is high quality habitat. That plan had robust community engagement behind it and in support of it, and it was approved by this board. It also aligns with our own ecological system plan, recommendations 2.1 and 2.2. It's basically to continue to work with community partners and agencies to manage collective impacts of polluted stormwater runoff. Also to implement regional stormwater facilities and BMPs in parks in partnership with the city and watershed districts. That also had robust community engagement and was approved by this board. Next slide, please. And I believe this is the last one. This has been reviewed by each party's legal counsel. And that's it. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to help out.
Looking for hands. I don't see any. Any questions out there of anybody? Well, I'm excited about it. You know, it just aligns with, well, now our legislative agenda. It's so many different things. It's very exciting. And grateful to the Bassett Creek watershed, you know, for being a good partner. So I thank it. And unless I don't see any, would the secretary please call the roll?
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner French.
Aye.
Vice Chair Hassan. Chair Forney.
Aye.
You have 4 ayes and 1 absent.
Moving on to our next resolution.
I'd like to move resolution 2021-233, a resolution allocating $150,000 of general fund excess balance towards the Street Reach program and $150,000 for the Teen Teamworks program for a total allocation of $300,000 of general funds excess fund balance.
Thank you. So is there any, I would like to have a presentation if that's okay. Oh, excuse me, Commissioner Vice President Vita.
I'll take the presentation as well, but I have some comments.
Okay, Director Wiseman, I believe, and also Deputy Superintendent Ringgold. I believe will be queuing it up here.
Chair Forney, I believe there might have been an error left on that. This is a action item that came forward from commissioners. So we do not have a prepared presentation, but we are able to answer questions.
Thank you for that clarification. Yes. So Commissioner or Vice President Vita.
Thank you, Chair Forney. A couple things. Happy to see that during these times where we're talking about youth violence prevention, that we're investing more money in young people. So thanks to staff and for those who work to bring this together. I just wondered if someone could give a little bit more details on exactly how this money will be used with the Street Reach program, and how many young people will we hire, or like how the money would be used towards Teen Teamworks.
Can I answer? I might be able to answer a little bit of that.
Well, being that you, I think, we're up for the resolution, please do, Commissioner French.
Well, so just like North Commons, I was talking with other commissioners, and we were trying to figure out ways we can reduce and mitigate youth violence. And we thought, increasing our Teen Teamworks program and having our outreach program being a little bit more robust than it is right now could mitigate some of the violence that's going on right now in our city. So we wanted
Commissioner French, I don't mean to interrupt, but I can barely hear you. You're like speaking really soft. Could you?
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
A little bit.
Okay, hold on. How about now?
We can hear you, but barely. But go, please proceed.
Sorry, my internet's not the best right now. The rationale behind this is to give staff some operating money to make these programs more robust, and so they don't have to come back and say, "Hey, we need money to do this. This is what we need. This is what we can use to mitigate violence." The money will be there. It's going to take some little bit more effort to ramp up our Teen Teamworks program. It's going to take a little bit more effort to hire some folks, but the money will be there, and we figure out what to do with it. It's a good problem to have. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
I think I heard what you said, Commissioner French, that it's essentially like a cushion in case staff needs additional resources for Teen Teamworks and Street Reach, or if there's like an enhancement in programs that they would have the funding there to help.
I expect this money to be used. I don't expect it just to sit there. I expect it to be used and utilized. But if it's not there, then I don't know. You put the money there, people can be a little bit more of a creative on how to use those funds. But we definitely need more adult bodies out in our parks. If we're gonna make North Commons free, North Commons will probably be a place where a lot of folks will gravitate to. So we need more bodies. We need more street reach folks working there. So that was kind of the rationale I had.
Thank you. I see Deputy Superintendent is actually physically raising her hand. Please.
Thank you, Chair Forney, for recognizing me. I don't have the opportunity to actually raise my hand as a co-host. I think in following up with Commissioner French's comments, so when we look at the available budget currently for Teen Works and the available budget for Street Reach in order to hire folks into those programs this summer, of the two of them, the Street Reach probably has the tighter margins. That's likely a program where we would be able to activate these dollars more this summer based on available dollars and potential ability to hire. Teen Works, it's possible that we will not be able to hire as many youth as are currently budgeted to hire, but these dollars will roll over into future years and be available. And if we were fortunate enough to be able to hire enough to use these dollars this year, we certainly would. But I think of the two, you would most likely see us being able to expend more of the Street Reach dollars than the Teen Works dollars this summer.
Thank you for that clarification. And Superintendent Bangura, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Chair Forney. And I'm echoing what Deputy Superintendent Ringgold said, is that we've hired, in fact, we've had 6 Street Reach that were just brought on Monday, added already to our Street Reach program. So we already were moving into the number of staff that we needed or that we are trying to get hired as quickly as we can. We also have 2 certified full-time staff, full-time Street Reach that we also are going to be hiring, which is year-round. So part of the budgeting process that this board has approved, and we're very grateful, is the ability then to hire those 2 certified full-time Street Reach folks that will be with us. Right now, currently, again, we do have the 6 that we just hired. They're being deployed again now, along with all the other Street Reach folks that are in our communities. And they're going to be already starting to help with Juneteenth this week. And they're being deployed across the city. So we're grateful for the Street Reach team that we do have, and also Community Connections and Violence Prevention team that has been out in the parks throughout our system. So as Deputy Superintendent Ringgold said, that is more of a, with the Street Reach, we can do something now where we can continue to recruit and hire, and that reach is a little closer than, of course, the Teen Works. But as was said, that money will be there, and we can continue, as Commissioner French said, continue to kind of look at the investment within that and continue to work towards not only Teen Works, but of course their Street Reach program.
Thank you. And I see Commissioner Musich hand up.
Thank you, Chair Forney. So earlier this year, we allocated a pretty significant dollar amount of excess fund balance to addressing youth violence. And I guess I'm wondering if this is a supplement to that. We've already expended that entire amount, or how does this new allocation interplay with what we've already put into addressing youth violence in the city in terms of the Street Reach component of the funding?
Is it Superintendent Bangura? I noticed you got your hand up, so I didn't know if that you were trying to, okay. Is there any other staff there to answer the question, or it looks like Commissioner French wants to answer the question?
I don't think at the times right now we're witnessing and experiencing unprecedented violence. I don't think we can spend enough. Last year when there was a pandemic, literally this board spent close to $250,000 to shut our parkways down because we thought it was a crisis. I think violence in our city right now is a crisis. And we need to bring every dollar to bear. If we put money aside earlier, we can put some more money aside right now because the problem is exasperated. So that is my rationale for asking for this money to be set aside for our street reach team and our communities.
Forney, may I reclaim my time, please?
What?
May I reclaim my time, please?
Oh, definitely. And I was gonna say, I don't think that your question got answered, so.
No, so if staff could please answer the question that I've asked, I would appreciate it.
And I'm not sure who would like to, Superintendent Bancora or Deputy.
Chair,
Go ahead.
Chair Forney, I could ask Director Weissman to maybe give a brief a budgetary or background on that from our financial standpoint, if she can, Director Weissman can step in for a moment.
Thank you.
Chair Forney and Commissioner Musich, could you please repeat your question?
I'm interested in understanding if this is being added to the amount of money that we've already allocated because that's all been spent, or if this is just an additional allocation. That's essentially my question. Because we earlier this year took a bunch of excess fund balance. We put a very significant amount, I want to say something like $600,000 into addressing youth violence. And I'm trying to understand if that money has already been expended.
So Chair Forney and Commissioner Musich, this would be in addition to those funds. Assistant Superintendent Cox is managing the youth violence prevention allocation that was provided by this board with the excess general fund balance allocation. I know that programs have started. I do not believe that it is 100% spent, but this allocation would be in addition to that. And during my financial update to this board earlier this evening, we do have available general fund excess fund balance of about 1.7 million. So this resolution would allocate $300,000 of that dollar amount.
Okay, and of the 1.7 million, that's above and beyond what we're required to keep in held in reserve for disasters.
Chair Forney and Commissioner Musich, that is correct.
So if other commissioners have things they'd like to just spend money on at this point in the year, we can bring forward proposals on those. The additional 1.2 million that would be remaining of that excess fund balance.
Chair Forney and Commissioner Musich, as we have talked many times, if we want to start a process for the full board, that is something that we could do, or we could do it during the 2022 budgeting process. But as the finance director, I would prefer to have these things discussed as a whole with a package rather than, one at a time.
Right, I would too, but unfortunately that's not how this is happening, and it seems like some commissioners get to decide how we're going to spend money without discussing it with their colleagues, whether or not we should be prioritizing these things first. So thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it. I also appreciate the additional data we've been given about the ability to expend these funds in this calendar year. That's helpful. I don't have any further questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Commissioner Severson's hand.
Thank you, Chair Forney. I'd like to thank Commissioner French for prioritizing North Minneapolis and youth violence. It's not hard to look around, and I know many of you don't travel here, but if you do, you can see it with your own eyes. If you don't travel here, you can read it in the paper or in social media or on the news. So I thank you so much for making this a priority. I'm not interested in the politics of who can just come spend money. Thank you for trying to get money spent in North Minneapolis to address these issues, because we literally have babies dying. It really sucks that people want to make this political as opposed to finding solutions so we don't have children dying in our communities. I have a question specifically about Street Reach. Is Street Reach working in North Minneapolis? Or are they only working the encampments? Can somebody help me understand that? Because I thought Street Reach was around to help deal with violence, but I don't believe they're in North Minneapolis somewhere. I think they're only working at campus. Can somebody help me understand this?
Chair Forney, Commissioner Severson, Street Reach is in the entire city. So Street Reach is working all over the entire city. In fact, and I can also bring forward a report on the work they've done. They're not doing just encampments. Their action plan and their work plan is around the entire city and the work within that. So they're in North Minneapolis, they're in South Minneapolis, they're in Upper South, they're all over the city. In particular, even recently, they were just at the Twin Beach in Theodore Worth, for example, and they've been at different sites across the entire city. Commissioner Severson, I can also, if you would like, I can also bring forward a report because they've been tracking their work, and we can bring forward a report just to show where they've been and the amount of work they've been doing across the whole city. But I can also bring that to you to make sure that we show the reflection of the work within the park system.
Yeah, I would appreciate that because even your own staff is telling me different, that they're not working North Minneapolis. So, and it was troubling to me. So I thought I would ask publicly to make sure that Street Reach, who are very staff that are targeting, kids that we need them to target in North Minneapolis, and to hear that they're not working over here and that they're working encampments instead is quite concerning. Not that encampments don't deserve attention, they absolutely do. But as Commissioner French stated earlier, we are kind of in crisis mode in North Minneapolis. And I, again, am really thankful that Commissioner French has taken this head on and is trying to help improve North Minneapolis for everybody.
Right, no.
Thank you.
Chair, oh, sorry, someone's on there, sorry. Chair Forney, Commissioner Severson, I do appreciate the question.
Well, we better send her something.
Someone's.
Yes, Cindy, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Again, Chair Forney, Commissioner Severson, I appreciate the question. Yeah, this is the first time I've heard that also being brought forward today during a board meeting. I had no idea that was even a concern. And I don't know, again, when it's brought forward, what I will do is check into that to make sure that what we're talking about is fact, and not just the fact that a few people might have seen someone in a particular area, because the work that's being done might not necessarily be seen, but they're out there in the field and they're working. We started with the lower number of community Street Reach folks. We were hiring as many as we could coming out of the pandemic. And so we had a number of people that were working, which is our full-time staff, along with the Street Reach folks that we already currently had. And we just brought again another 6 people on board, and also activating 2 certified full-time. So Commissioner Severson, I will definitely get you the information and see if we can get some facts out and give you some information directly from the team. But I do appreciate the question. I will get back to you on that.
Commissioner Severson, I assume that you just didn't put your hand down. You don't want to speak again?
No, thank you. I appreciate you recognizing me.
Okay. All right. Your hand still is up. Anyway, well, I appreciate the, first of all, the update on, what the status is with Team Teamworks and with Street Reach. And I think it's lovely that we do have some excess funds to be able to possibly nudge, some more employment there. But I'm hearing also that these funds probably will not be spent this year, unfortunately, because we do have a real employment issue. So it's there. I just don't want to put out any false hopes that suddenly we're going to have $300,000 activated tomorrow, throughout the system, for employment. Anyway, and I really also appreciate that we're being responsive to the community, but I think we need to be a different conversation needs to come, and I think that staff is there for us to be able to navigate these waters, and so the conversation around the waiving of the fees at the pool, I think both of those. Staff is our resource, and we really should be relying on them more. And seeing no other hands, I will ask the secretary to please call the roll.
Is up. My hand is up. Chair Forney.
Oh, I didn't see your hand, so okay.
I just want to say, we are in emergency. We are in crisis. And I don't think this board is taking it serious. I want to sit here and play these little political games while people are dying.
Commissioner French, once again, we cannot.
No, don't cut me off. Don't cut me.
No, we can't hear you. We cannot hear you. That's all I'm trying to say.
Let's stop playing games with lives, all right? Let's have the money available to folks. Yeah, those folks don't usually look like the people that usually get money, but we can change that. We can create access that we haven't created in the past. You guys are coming up with 10,000 reasons why not to do the right thing. It's this board's job to push policy that helps everybody, not just the folks who live around Lake Calhoun or Lake Bedamacasca or Lake Harriet. Everybody. We closed those basketball courts down on the north side. We did all we could to not have resources for kids who look like me. And they want to sit here and talk about we can't spend this money right now. This is inappropriate. Spend the money. Yeah, people out here dying, babies drowning. $300,000 in the grand scheme of things is nothing. $38,000 to have let kids go swimming in our pool is nothing. This is why our country is where it's at right now, because the money goes to the people who already got money. Stop it right now.
I assume you're finished. Please, if you can lower your hand. Thank you. I don't believe that anybody's saying that not to spend the resources. It's a matter of whether or not there is something to spend it on. That is really what the narrative was here, with staff telling us about the possibility that these funds will not be spent until next year. So with that, the secretary, would you please call the roll?
Vice President Vito.
That's what staff said. Staff is not likely.
Commissioner French, you are out of line. You're out of order.
You're out of line.
No, you are out of order.
You can't direct and point staff to say something they didn't say. They say they most likely won't be used this year. That's not what they said.
Commissioner French, you are out of line. Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Did you hear me, Madam Secretary?
No. Vice President Vito.
Aye.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner French.
Aye.
Vice Chair Hassan. Chair Forney.
Aye.
You have 4 ayes, 1 absent.
This is now moving forward into the full board. I declare the meeting adjourned.
Sorry, Commissioner Forney, I didn't hear you. Could you repeat that, please?
I declare the meeting adjourned, and this is going to the full board. That's all I was saying.
Thank you.
I will reconvene the regular meeting of the Park Board. We have 2 items to consider. I'll ask for a motion on the Recreation Resolution 2021-234. This resolution has been moved. To remind folks, this is Resolution 2021-234, a resolution changing all current user aquatic fees associated with North Commons Water Park from their current level to $0. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the resolution? Commissioner Meyer.
Thank you. I'll be voting for this. One thought I had going into this was, wondering if this would make North Commons more crowded. In communication with Commissioner Severson, I understand that oftentimes North Commons has low use, so that's not so much of a concern. If it does emerge that it gets crowded, like if people from the suburbs or elsewhere in the city are coming there because it's free and kind of crowding out users nearby, then we might want to revisit ways to make sure that it's best serving the people who live nearby. But based on Commissioner Severson's recommendation, I will vote for it.
Thank you, Commissioner Meyer. Any other hands raised from commissioners? Commissioner French.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I would entertain any amendment that would expand this to other parks, other areas, other programming. I would also entertain any amendments that would add swimming lessons to this. Anything that helps keeps our babies safe. I'm for it. I'm not particular about that. So we can also readdress any issues that may arise with offering our places to swim for free. We can readdress that. We can come back in 2 or 3 meetings and say, hey, this isn't working. Let's do something different. But to not do anything, I think would be criminal. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner French. Commissioner Severson.
Thank you, President Cowgill. I again would like to thank Commissioner French for bringing this to the table. This is a reminder, and I just want to be careful and respectful when I say this, but remember, swimming is a life or death thing. I need everybody on this board or anyone listening. Swimming, it's not like signing up for football or basketball or gymnastics. Swimming can be life or death. And that's why something like this is so important. And last but not least, I keep hearing commissioners say, the staff. I was elected to represent Ward 2. I was elected to make decisions. I don't always agree with the staff. A prime example of not agreeing with the staff is a height charge for kids. I don't agree with that. And I don't feel I need to have a conversation with staff to get something approved about that. If I had it my way, that absolutely would not be happening. So understand and let's respect all 9 board members that we are elected to make the decisions, and we don't always have to go to staff to make these decisions. Thank you.
Vice President Vita.
Thank you, President Cowgill. I just want to say again that, I think it's important for us to put some of the focus on swim lessons, because this is definitely one of the communities that is underserved in actually knowing how to swim. So I'm super supportive of this. Thank you to the commissioners who did the work. But I really hope that, we bring something forward in the coming weeks that addresses actual swim lessons, because it is a life and death matter when it comes to swimming. And I think we should create opportunities for every child who wants to use North Commons Park, pool, wherever, Weber, to know how to swim, how to feel comfortable swimming, how to feel safe swimming, so that we don't have fatalities on our hand because kids in certain communities don't have access to proper swim lessons.
Thank you, Vice President. Not seeing any other hands raised. Thank you for everybody who worked on this and the discussion. Looking forward to bringing more actions forward on this important issue, especially the ideas brought up by Vice President Vita. I'll ask the Secretary to take the roll.
Commissioner Bourne. Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner Severson.
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer.
Aye.
Commissioner Hassan. Commissioner French. Commissioner French.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner French. Vice President Vita.
Aye.
President Cowgill.
Aye.
And I'll say aye as well. I'll say aye.
Oh, yes, Secretary Ringgold, please note that Commissioner Forney has also said aye
my
to the
apologies.
resolution. Thank you.
Secretary Ringo, did you count my vote as an aye? I wasn't sure.
Yes, let me just clarify. I have 7 ayes and 2 absent. Included in the ayes are Forney and French.
Thank you, Secretary Ringgold. That does carry. I'll entertain a motion on Resolution 2021-233, which is a resolution allocating $150,000 of general fund excess fund balance towards the Street Reach program and $150,000 for the Teen Teamworks program for a total allocation of $300,000 of general fund excess fund balance.
So moved.
Second.
The resolution has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the resolution? Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, thank you to everybody who worked on this and the great discussion that happened in committee. Glad to see this moving forward. I'll ask the secretary to take the roll.
Commissioner Bourne. Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner Severson.
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer.
Aye.
Commissioner Hassan. Commissioner French.
Aye.
Commissioner Forney.
Aye.
Commissioner Bourne.
Aye.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
President Cogill.
Aye.
You have 8 ayes and 1 absent.
That carries. Moving into petitions and communications, Commissioner Bourne.
I will pass.
Commissioner Musich.
Pass.
Commissioner Severson.
I'd be remiss if I didn't send my condolences to the family and the young man who drowned in our pool. And again, just a thank you to this board for moving some stuff forward, particularly again, Commissioner French. It's just, you guys, we can do this together, and we need to do more of this, and we need to spend more resources. And Commissioner French came to the table and did this work. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Severson. Commissioner Meyer.
Pass.
Thank you, Commissioner Meyer. Commissioner French.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to my colleagues for supporting these issues that I believe will truly mitigate some of the violence that we have going on in our city right now. That is, to me, is just as much of a crisis as COVID, just as much of a crisis as our unhoused population was last year, and still we have. So thank you for understanding that this is a crisis just like all those other crises. Also, I just wanted to this week sometime I met with some elders from Little Earth who really expressed frustration about Nat really being looked over a lot of times when it comes to infrastructure in Little Earth, or the park across the street from Little Earth, which is Cedar Field. And they showed interest in possibly creating a splash pad. So I'm going to be working with some of those guys. There's over 500 kids under the age of 10 who are living in Little Earth right now. And I think a splash pad or something like that would be really nice for that community. So I'd encourage other commissioners to go out and reach out to some of the folks on Little Earth. They said they've been trying to get in touch with other park commissioners. I would urge you guys to reach out to the president of the Little Earth Residents Association, as well as Jolene Jones, who runs the community center over there. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner French. Commissioner Forney.
Thank you. A park advocate who's been around our park system in our audience for years, since 2004, passed away. Arlene Freed, and I just wanted to acknowledge her steadfast, shall I say, watch of our park system. She established, along with 5 other people, a group that was called Park Watch. And like I say, since 2004, they have been attending meetings and keeping us accountable. And one of the great things that she did do was to firmly establish our citizen advisory committees and making the citizen voice far, far more relevant. I've known Arlene well before she did that. We used to go to theater performances together, a lot of other things. And she was just a very, very fierce advocate. She was instrumental in some of the high-rise development, or should we say, decreasing the high-rise development around our lakes because of the shoreline overlay. Anyway, she was just an amazing character, and I know that in her neighborhood, a neighbor at the funeral mentioned that she was known as the sheriff. So it is a voice that is going to be missed. I'm very grateful for her work. She came out of the League of Women Voters, and their Observer Corps is a national initiative, and she took it to heart. And like I say, she was virtually at every single solitary meeting and would write up notes and would post them. And she had a very collegial relationship with reporters. And so a huge thanks, and of course also expressing my thorough loss to for her family and all of her friends. But thank you, Arlene. I know you're still watching us.
Thank you, Commissioner Forney. Commissioner or Vice President Vita.
Thank you, President Cogill. Thank you, Commissioner Forney, for acknowledging Arlene Freed. Arlene was one of my first supporters when I announced I was running for Park Board, and she gave me a wealth of knowledge, some things that I didn't even ask her for. So rest in peace, Arlene. And as you said, she was definitely a character. I want to also say thanks to all the staff, community members, and the volunteers who put together a wonderful week of Juneteenth events. I grew up with just the one big event on the Saturday, and now we have like a week-long event full of just jam-packed with things from movies in the parks to virtual town halls. It was great to see the Juneteenth calendar. And so thanks to staff and volunteers and community members for putting that together. And then also there's a lot of events going on in our parks for Violence Prevention Week. Thanks again to the community organizers and staff who are helping, and community members who are attending.
Thank you, Vice President Vita. I'd be remiss if I didn't call on Council Rice, who I believe wanted to say a few words also about Arlene's passing.
Thank you, Mr. President. Arlene was one of the founders of Park Watch, and sitting on this side of the table, sometimes having Park Watch look at what the board does or did was not perhaps the most comfortable position to be in. But at the end of the day, what Arlene did and others did was good for the system. We're all better for that. I would say that Arlene really was a guardian of the park system, and as somebody who's served this system for 38 years now, we need people like that. It shows how much they love the system, how much they paid attention to the system, how much they cared for it. And so her passing is a loss, but I know there are other people who will step up and keep their eyes on this really magnificent jewel that we have. The parks are the heart and soul of the city. We've been through some good times and some bad times, but the parks are always there for everyone, and we were lucky to have Arlene. I'm sorry that she's passed.
Thank you, Council Rice. I'll try to be brief here. It's been a lot of unfortunate losses in our city over the past few weeks, and it's hard to wrap one's head around all the deaths. Commissioner Severson did mention the young person who died at North Commons. There was another skateboarder who didn't die in a park, but did die outside just, I believe, last couple of days here. And so it's hard to see, not to mention everything that's happened in Uptown. The greatest hope that I have is that our parks are the spaces where there's respite and we can create safe spaces. It's great to see all the work that our wonderful system's doing, our superintendent and all the staff in ensuring that we have active, safe parks. And thank you to the commissioners for working on additional ways we can invest in those activities and make them dynamic and safe for everybody. As somebody who represented Ms. Freed for just the last 4 years, I would just say briefly, I always enjoyed working with her. She's somebody who while we didn't always agree, we're certainly on different sides of certain issues. We always had a good conversation. She always kept following up. It really showed how dedicated she was to the system, how dedicated she was to working collaboratively and sticking up for really what she believed in the system. I was actually just looking back and seeing that her last email to me was only just a few months ago, commenting directly to me about what she thought the concept should be for the refectory. So even up until just a little bit ago, she was really invested in the future of the system, in looking at the details and also looking at the bigger picture. And it's a great loss for us all. She's an example of somebody whose dedication, as council said, has made this park system better. She reminds me a bit of my own grandfather, who will decide to get in on any and every issue, and who, even though he's on all opposite sides of everything in politically with me, has supported me and always wanted to engage. So her loss kind of hits home specifically for me in that way. With that, I'll say thank you, everybody, and I will adjourn the regular meeting of the Park Board and turn it over to Chair Musich for the Operations and Environment Committee.
Thank you, President Cogill. The time being 8:31 p.m., I'll call the Operations and Environment Committee to order. Secretary Ringgold, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Meyer.
Here.
Commissioner Hassan. Commissioner Forney. Commissioner Forney.
Here, I thought I said, sorry.
Vice Chair French.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to, I'm not gonna be able to finish this. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. I want to apologize. I'm gonna have to go, sorry.
I think Commissioner
Chair
French said he's
Musich.
dropping off the meeting. Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda and the minutes of May 19th, 2021.
So moved.
Thank you both. Secretary Ringgold, can you please call the roll?
Commissioner Meyer.
Roll the vote.
Aye.
Commissioner Hassan. Commissioner Forney.
Aye.
Vice Chair French. Chair Musich.
Aye.
You have 3 ayes and 2 absent.
Thank you. That carries. This evening we have one action item. 2021-231, a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, with Green Minneapolis to collaborate on the establishment of carbon offset program and its initial funding as a means of expanding and perpetuating Minneapolis's urban forest and public tree canopy. I believe staff has a few slides put together
So
to
moved,
just.
by the way.
Oh, thank you. I was going to ask for a motion and then I totally forgot after I started reading. Appreciate that, Commissioner Meyer. Are members of the committee interested in seeing the presentation?
Please.
Okay. Assistant Superintendent Barrick.
Yes.
Way.
Good evening, Chair Message. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Okay, good deal. And I see Secretary Ringgold is pulling that up. This is just a real brief overview. If you recall, the board directed staff to draft an MOU in partnership with Green Minneapolis to establish a carbon offset program as an initial funding means, kind of an alternative funding means for additional tree planting. If you go to the next slide, a quick walk through the agreement. A little bit of a background, we know trees are a key strategy for mitigating climate change, for the benefits that they provide in sequestering carbon, capturing stormwater, etc. Minneapolis tree canopy cover, like many urban tree canopy covers, is not growing. There's a multitude of factors that go into that. Primarily, most of the tree canopy cover within a city is on private property. So all of our efforts on public property and in the boulevards will only benefit those areas. So with Emerald Ash Borer, Dutch elm disease in the past, we've been replacing trees at a 1-to-1 replacement, doing a heck of a job of doing that. But as a city as a whole, we have seen a decrease in canopy cover. We've completed successfully, or completing, I should say, the canopy restoration project that was started about 8 years ago, which was replacing 40,000 ash trees on parks and boulevards. And so that project's coming to an end. Green Minneapolis and the Park Board would like to form a public-private partnership to explore and employ alternative funding sources for tree planting and maintenance. Go to the next slide. We've come up with that MOU. It's an initial term of 3 years that would allow for us to extend another 3 years with written notice and received within 6 months of the expiration of this initial term. Either party has the right to terminate the agreement at any time and for any reason, but again, with written notice. And each party agrees to hold each other harmless, defend, and indemnify. So if you go to the next slide. Specifically, the initial focus will be on this urban tree carbon offset program that would have Green Minneapolis serving as the project operator and working with City Forest Credits, which is an organization out of Seattle that provides carbon registry and certification. And so this agreement puts Green Minneapolis as the operator and then the Park Board as the beneficiary. So with our long history of planting and maintaining trees along boulevards and parks, we become the tool to get the trees in the ground. Green Minneapolis becomes the marketer and the recruiter of the corporate sponsorship. So if we go to the next slide. Both parties agree that we would collaborate and work to identify and secure funding for the pilot and the ongoing implementation. We would work together to confirm the scope, schedule, budget, and staffing requirements in the pilot project. We need to sit down and review and analyze the City Forest credit requirements specifically for defining and establishing and executing the pilot program, and then prepare the necessary reviews and approvals for both the MPRB and City of Minneapolis to implement. Go to the next slide. Specifically on our side, we would perform a legal requirements test that declares city trees planted are not due to an enacted law or ordinance. And what that means is the way the carbon offset program and the City Forest Credits program works is if you are obligated to plant the trees already, you can't count that as a carbon tree. That's the purpose for your planting is a legal purpose. You have to do it already. It's not an additional tree being planted. So we would confirm the planting capacity and time frame. We would plant and maintain the trees with MPRB employees. We've heard that concern. This agreement and this program is intended to just increase funding to the forestry operation so that we can continue to employ folks full-time. And then we would commit to maintaining and tracking initial pilot trees for 25 years, something we're confident we can do with the Davy Treekeeper software we already own and operate with. And then we would track all tree planting and maintenance. If you go to the next slide, Green Minneapolis has agreed to prepare and submit the project application, prepare and submit the implementation agreement, and the annual project monitoring reports. We would coordinate the third-party verification. This is something that's important. We've learned in our research with City Forest credits, it's been suggested, why doesn't the park board just do this themselves? City Forest credits prefers and has had the most success with third-party verification for a checks and balance system. So the people who are selling the credits are not the same people that are planting and maintaining the trees. And so Green Minneapolis agrees to serve in that role, and then also coordinate with the registry the issuance of the credits and market and sale of the carbon credits and coordinate the payment of proceeds to the NCRB. You go to the next slide. I believe that's it. So I can stand for questions.
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Barrick. To Commissioner Forney.
Thank you. Very exciting. Very, very exciting. Really, I'm overjoyed by this and everything. And thank you very much, Assistant Superintendent Barrick, for clarifying this is definitely using our employees, right? Okay. And in fact, if this funding, whatever is achieved, there is a possibility that the staff that we may lose at the end of this year with the expiration with the tree reforestation levy, we can keep on board. Is that correct?
Chair Musich, Commissioner Forney, actually, we've the staff is current. We've managed that attrition, managed those vacancies through attrition to avoid having to lay folks off. So in the past year or so, we have had folks either resign, retire, and we've maintained those vacancies. So, but those, it's a crew leader for arborists and MEO, I believe, are the staffing levels. And yes, what you're suggesting though is with a program like this, if we can get consistent funding, we would be able to, refund those positions or we'd be able to fill those vacancies.
Wonderful. I mean, to me, that's very exciting because I get terrified about the fact that our tree reforest levy is expiring, and we have continual losses, as you're indicating, of our trees, and we need to keep, this is the most powerful weapon that we have as far as climate change. So I'm just so thrilled with this and appreciate Minneapolis, stepping forward and being willing to collaborate with us on it. So thank you, hurrah, hurrah, and excited to see it pass.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Forney. Does anyone else have additional questions or comments they'd like to make on this item? So I just have a couple things to say. I'm just very thankful for the effort and time that everyone that's been involved in this effort to get this to where we're at right now has put in. It's a big lift, and I'd love to see our local corporations have an opportunity to invest in retaining more carbon via trees here in our local environment instead of spending that money elsewhere, so that we can have the benefits of their corporate efforts to reduce their carbon outputs. So it's been a lot, and I'm very thankful for the staff support, the support of Green Minneapolis, and the folks on the steering committee that have been helping us get to where we're at. It's been great collaboration, and I'm very thankful for it. So not seeing any additional comments at this time, I will ask the secretary to call roll on the vote.
Commissioner Meyer.
Aye.
Commissioner Son. Commissioner Forney.
Aye.
Vice Chair French. Chair Musich.
Aye.
You have 3 ayes and 2 absent.
That motion passes. Since we have nothing else on the agenda, I declare the Operations and Environment Committee adjourned.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.